Secretary take the roll. Members, please vote. Senator Murphy, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Bolden votes aye.
Senator Bolden votes aye.
Senator Fateh votes aye.
Senator Fateh votes aye.
Senator Gustafson votes aye.
Senator Rasmussen votes aye. Gustafson, I'm sorry. Senator Gustafson votes aye. Sorry about that there, Senator. Senator Gustafson votes aye.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Senator McQuaid votes aye.
Senator McQuaid votes aye.
Senator McEwen votes aye.
Senator McEwen votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye.
Senator Putnam votes aye.
Senator Putnam votes aye.
Senator Dibble votes aye.
Senator Dibble votes aye.
Senator Morrison votes aye.
Senator Morrison votes aye. And just to make sure that we're clear that Senator Fateh voted in person. Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Draheim votes aye.
Senator Draheim votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
Senator Pratt votes no.
Senator Pratt votes no. All senators having voted who... All senators having voted who desires to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 37 ayes and 28 noes, the motion to adopt the committee reports is adopted. Prevails, I should say. Members, we will now go to the sixth order of business, second reading of Senate bills. The Secretary will read the Senate file numbers.
Senate file number 2319.
The Senate file has been given its second reading. Members, we now proceed to the seventh order of business, second reading of House bills. The Secretary will read the House file number.
House file number 2950.
The House file has been given its second reading. Moving to the ninth order of business, we will go to motions and resolutions remaining under the order of business and motions and resolutions. Next up on special orders is House file 782. That is specifically on general orders number 146. That is Senator Pappas. This is the Minnesota Secure Choice Retirement Program Act. To that notion, Senator Pappas.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Minnesota is facing a retirement crisis. Declines in employer-sponsored pensions and the lack of savings impact people's ability to achieve a secure retirement. Nearly half of Americans nearing retirement age at 65 have less than $25,000 put away, while 1 in 4 has less than $1,000 in savings. In Minnesota, 32% of private sector employees, approximately 700,000 individuals, work for an employer that does not offer a retirement plan. And employees of color are significantly less likely to have access to workplace retirement plans. Today, however, 16 states have either passed laws or have pending legislation that outlines new programs for private sector workers. Of that number, 8 states have implemented a secure choice program with positive results. To get ahead of the retirement savings crisis and help workers save for the future, the bill before you establishes the Secure Choice Program, a public-private partnership for retirement savings that allows workers to set aside wages through an easily accessible auto IRA plan. 2/3 of small business owners show interest in offering a retirement plan, but say that confusing costs and requirements prevent them from doing so. Secure Choice poses no cost to employers aside from incidental costs related to adjusting their payroll systems, and the Minnesota State Board of Investment would manage the investment accounts. Providing workers the option of a more stable financial foundation to rely on after retirement could potentially save Minnesota taxpayers an estimated $258 million over the next 10 years. When a similar program was enacted in Oregon, within the first 3 years of the program, 112,652 employees have funded accounts, and 17,121 employers were participants in the initiative. Investments were made totaling over $156 million. So what does House File 782 do? The Secure Choice Retirement Program gives all Minnesota workers the opportunity to save for retirement and have those savings safely invested with the State Board of Investment. And it helps small businesses avoid the complications and the paperwork of setting up a 401k program. As I said, 700,000 Minnesotans who don't have access to a retirement savings program through work will be able to use a payroll deduction to contribute to an IRA. There's no cost to employers except incidental costs related to adjusting their payroll systems. The Minnesota State Board of Investment would manage these investment accounts. The state of Minnesota has absolutely no liability related to the program, and the bill is supported by the Pew Charitable Trust and the American Retirement Association and the AARP. So members, this is like a win-win for both employees and for businesses. Businesses are trying to compete with larger companies that can offer 401k. The fees can be excessive and it can be too complicated. So a simple auto IRA, they can choose whether they want it to be pre-tax or post-tax. This is what we're trying to establish here. If there are no immediate questions, members, I would like to offer the A1 amendment.
Senator Pappas offers the A1 amendment. The Secretary will report the A1 amendment.
Senator Pappas moves to amend House File Number 782, the first unofficial engrossment, as follows. Page 2, delete lines 23 to 32. This is the A1 amendment.
Senator Pappas to your A1 amendment.
Thank you, members. And while it's being posted, I can give you a little rundown. This is really because there were kind of technical mistakes in the system. It's a little bit complicated when you have a pension commission and then you agree in the pension commission what the bill should be on a bipartisan basis, House and Senate, and then you have to run it through your separate bodies, state government, in the House and the Senate. And so there were just some misalignments, and what I'm trying to do here is align this bill now with what the Pension Commission passed. So on, first of all, we're deleting lines 23 to 32, which is current language, and we're inserting language that was requested by Judy Cook, the correction language that would apply to the employee leasing companies that she works with. On page 6, we're deleting lines. We're removing the board's ability to establish penalties and requiring legislative approval, which you'll see in section 12 of the bill. And this was something that the Pension Commission felt very strongly about. They didn't want a board to establish penalties. So we had to delete this language from the original bill to make it consistent, as I said, with what the Pension Commission had adopted. On page 7, line 4, we're making that process less prescriptive. Again, on page 7, line 5, we're deleting penalties. On page 9 and page 10, these are just technical corrections. On page 10, line 21, this was one amendment that came from the House that had to do with the annual report and how they wanted the annual report, what they wanted included in the annual report, and I'm accepting that. On page 13, line 5, the idea is that the program would not start any earlier than January 1st, 2025. This was a delay that was suggested by the Minnesota Chamber just to give businesses more time to learn about the program, become familiar with the program. So we agreed to that. And page 13, line 9, after directors insert which must occur. This section and the section on the next page really deletes that the LCPR would choose the chair and says that the board itself will elect the chair. And then Section 12 has to do again with the penalties, is that it requires that the board that we're setting up in this bill to oversee the Secure Choice Plan, if they want to add penalties of some sort, they must come back and make recommendations to the LCPR and the legislature and have the legislature approve that. And with that, members, I'm happy to take questions.
Any questions on the A1 amendment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. The A1 is adopted. Any additional amendments? Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. And so I believe that with this system, right now, the employees are automatically enrolled, and they have to, within the first 30 days, opt out of the system. Mr. President, I believe that these employees should have the option to opt in and not opt out. If you want to be in the system, you should take an active role and opt into the system. So with that, Mr. President, I offer the A3 amendment.
Senator Howe offers the A3 amendment. The Secretary will report the A3 amendment.
Senator Howe moves to amend House File Number 782, the first unofficial engrossment, as follows. Page 4, line 10, delete each covered employer must transmit. This is the A3 amendment.
Senator Howe to your A3 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Like I said before, this doesn't change anything except for it makes it so they make an active choice to opt in. And I think that makes it a much better bill, that the people actually take an active role and know that they're in the system rather than having to take action within the first 30 days to opt out. Otherwise, there's really not an option to opt out. So that's why I think it's very important to actually have them involved, know what they're doing, and make the choice to be an active member of the program. Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a green vote.
Members, we are on the A3 amendment. Senator Klein.
Mr. President, I request a roll call vote.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Senator Pappas.
Mr. President, I would request that members vote no on this amendment. I think that it's really important for members to understand that even though it is a opt-out system, that they can choose to opt out at any time. Because the whole idea of opt-in is it's automatic enrollment is really the financial industry best practice to make it easier to save. In fact, individuals are 20 times more likely to save if they are automatically enrolled in a workplace savings program. These tools are proven to work. It's up to each worker to decide if they want to participate. Contributions are made with an automatic deduction from their paychecks, and they can decide if they want it to be pre-tax or post-tax dollars. So it's not like they're not going to be informed. And the board is going to be very involved in engaging businesses to sign up and in educating employees. So it's really a better idea to keep it an opt-out system, and I urge members to vote no on the amendment.
Senator Barr.
Thank you, Mr. President. I encourage a green vote on the Howe amendment. I have worked for numerous small companies, 3, 4, 5, sometimes 2 employees. Well, this is 5, so at 5 and above have to climb into this. But right now I'm working for a company that only has 6 employees. I never see my boss. I never am around any of my other employees. Communication is through text or an email. I get a pay stub that's emailed to me. My check is direct deposited. I never meet with any of the administrative staff. And by having this as the way this is set up currently without an opt-in, I could get a pay stub or I could miss an email, be past my 30 days, and be stuck for the next year before I can have all of my money returned to me. And if I was a lower income and was not planning on having 3, 4, 5% taken out of my check, I'd get to the end of the month and wonder, or my next pay stub and wonder where my money's at. And then I wouldn't be able to opt out for the next year. Having this as an opt-in so that the employees are taking an actual proactive, making a proactive decision with their paycheck, with their monies, with their remuneration is a much more responsible approach. Thank you.
Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to rise in support of the Howe Amendment. And I would like to ask Senator Pappas if she would yield for a question.
Senator Pappas, will you yield? She will yield. Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Pappas. In your opening description of the underlying bill, you made comparisons to many other types of employers that offer these plans. When you made those comparisons and did your research in this bill, did you find any information whereby the employers or the private sector in your comparisons had an automatic opt or automatically enrolled, whereby it was the burden on the employees then to opt out?
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Lucero, according to our research, that the states that do a opt-out system have higher enrollment and more involvement from employees. So that's why we think it's really the best standard. It's the industry standard to do it as an opt-out system.
Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. If Senator Pappas would yield for another question.
Senator Pappas, will you yield? Senator Pappas, will you yield? Yes. Yes, she will yield. Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Pappas. In the answer to that question, I believe I understood your answer to be referring to the other states similar to programs such as the one that you're proposing. But my question is, in your research and in your opening remarks, you were comparing employees that are members or employees of private sector companies that don't have this option. My question is not in comparisons to other states similar to the program that you're offering, but instead those employers that offer retirement programs. When employees are hired or brought on board, are they automatically enrolled in retirement programs whereby the burden is to opt out? Or in your research, did you find that they are automatically not enrolled and the burden is on them to opt into the potential for a retirement program?
Senator Pappas, to the question.
Mr. President and Senator Lucero, I don't know state by state. I just know what the research has shown, in that it's a better system for employees. They're more likely to save and participate if it's an opt-out system.
Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Pappas yield for another question?
Senator Pappas will yield. She will yield. Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, I'm not talking about nationwide, and I'm not talking about retirement programs in other states. For those private sector employers in the state of Minnesota, when you did your research to put this bill together, within Minnesota and companies offering retirement programs, are employees automatically enrolled whereby they must opt out or vice versa?
Senator Pappas, to the question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Lucero, I don't know.
Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I will answer the question, and I will help Senator Pappas know the answer. As one in my adult professional career, I have worked for a multitude of employers, probably approaching 18. Different employers, different industries. I worked for very large employers like Medtronic. I've worked for medium-sized companies. I've worked for small companies of 100 employees or less. Every one of these employers that I've worked for as an adult that I can recall have offered retirement programs. But every single one, the employee had to participate. There was absolutely no automatic enrollment that would take money away from the employees' wages that they did not affirmatively consent to. This bill, which automatically enrolls people without their knowledge or affirmative consent, is absolutely something we should oppose. It should require an automatic opt-in. I'm sorry, not an automatic, an affirmative opt-in. So, Mr. President, would Senator Pappas yield for another question?
Senator Pappas, will you yield? She will yield. Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Pappas. You had mentioned here a few minutes ago that employees have the option to opt out. Can you bring some more specificity or clarity to that? Would that be at any time, or are there certain periods or enrollment periods or disenrollment periods, or can it be done any of the 365 days in the year?
Senator Pappas, when you're ready.
Sorry, Mr. President, I'm having a hard time understanding Senator Lucero's question. The information I have is that the federal government requires employers to offer this as an opt-in program initially, but then the employee has the option to opt out at any time after the initial 30 days.
Senator Lucero.
Okay, that wasn't at all the question I was asking. That was the first exchange, but that'll bring me back now. So I'm going to pause the second the question I just asked that she didn't hear, and I will now ask for some clarity on what she just answered. Mr. President, would she yield for a question?
Will you yield? She will yield, Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Pappas. With what you just said, according to IRS or whatever it is you just cited, am I understanding you correctly that you are stating that employers who offer a retirement plan have to offer the retirement plan and then they're automatically enrolled and the burden is on them to opt out? Is that what you're suggesting?
If you give her a minute, Senator Lucero, looks like she's getting some additional
I'm sorry, Mr. President. Senator Lucero, are you asking about an employer who already has a retirement plan? Is that who you're talking about? Not a secure choice employer, but an employer who operates an existing plan like a 401k.
So, Senator Lucero, if you answer that question, then I think I can help you all, because it seems like you guys are having a different conversation. So, Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll try to be as clear as I can. My questions do not pertain to this proposal for the state of Minnesota or other states that have enacted a similar proposal. My line of questioning...
And Senator Lucero, just for clarity, so your question is really around a secure choice retirement program. Is that what your question is pertaining to?
I'm trying to, in regards to the amendment that's before us,
The A3 amendment.
that seeks to change it so that employees are not automatically enrolled, and then if they want to be enrolled, have to affirmatively consent to become a participant in the program. That's the amendment. In the opening remarks, the chief author had made comparisons to the private sector and other employers, and then said that there are a number of employees in the state of Minnesota that their employers don't offer that. So in regards to this underlying amendment and the opt-in, opt-out, etc., I'm asking the chief author, in regards to private sector employers in the state of Minnesota, is she suggesting, with the citation of the IRS code, that said employers who have existing programs, that those employees are automatically enrolled?
So, Senator Pappas, do you understand the question, or would you like me to interpret?
Mr. President and Senator Lucero, I guess I don't know about all other employers, you know, and what all the rules are in terms of what employers who already are offering 401k plans, you know, but I don't believe that they have an auto-enrollment. I believe it is up to the employee if they want to enroll or not, if the employer offers a 401k, for example. That's different than what we are, you're right, that's different than what we're doing here with Secure Choice. We have a auto-enrollment requirement in the Secure Choice plan.
There you go. Senator Lucero.
Thank you,
I think
Mr.
your question
President.
got answered. Senator Lucero.
It did take several times, but yes, now we are on the same page. That is exactly right. And the reason I'm asking that question to get that baseline is because this program, which is supposed to cover those employees that are employed by an employer that don't offer a retirement program, that scope of employees is going to be required to be automatically enrolled in a plan that is different than the best practices, and it is different than ironically named choice than what is done right now in that private sector. That is the reason why we should support the Howe Amendment, is to align ourselves with the best practices, with what is done with private sector, so that employees don't automatically have a deduction. Now, I can tell you, Mr. President, a lot of us have gone, I guess I don't know, Mr. President, your background. I don't know Senator Pappas' employment background, but I do know that many members in this chamber, when becoming a W-2 employee, there is a flurry of onboarding activity that is involved. A flurry of documents, of signatures that are required, orientation day, sometimes orientation week, and it is absolutely information overload for those that are being onboarded. Among that stack of documents that is given to these during the onboarding process, to have some kind of disclosure, by the way, you're automatically going to be enrolled and it is now your burden to opt out, is not what we should be doing in the state of Minnesota. Now, I can tell you, when I was younger in years, closer to just starting my professional career, you know what was important to me? Starting my new family, having a new mortgage, having car payments, I needed every single dollar in my pocket. I needed everything to come home because I was starting my life and I had 1,000 bills I had to pay. And it was penny pinching, living paycheck to paycheck. For some, there are circumstances in life where that doesn't ease even 10, 20, or 30 years later. And so we absolutely need to recognize that whether you're 18 years old, which is my understanding of this, the scope of the underlying bill, is anybody who's 18 or over, 18, 19, 20, 21, mid-20s, late 20s, these people in this period of their life need every dollar to come home. And we can't place the burden on them to say, hey, I may have missed the notification, may have missed something, I can't have these automatic deductions. I need, due to circumstances and cost of living in my life, I need those dollars. And it is not for the state to pass some law and say, we know better than you, and we're going to require an opt-in. Or I'm sorry, require an automatic in, and it's now your burden to opt out. That is not what we should be doing. At a bare minimum with this program, I have other concerns with it, but at a bare minimum, it should align like every other retirement program in the private sector offered by private sector employers, and that is, here's what we offer. It is our responsibility as the employer to show you the benefits that are available to you, but it is up to you, employee, to elect to opt in. That is what we need to do. And so, Mr. President, I absolutely encourage a green vote on the Howe Amendment.
Any other discussion on the A3 amendment?
Mr. President.
All right, so we're going to go to Senator Pappas and then the author before we vote.
Okay. Mr. President, just
Senator
briefly,
Pappas.
I want to respond that automatic enrollment is the financial best practice, and I'm quoting a study by Vanguard called Automatic Enrollment, the Power of the Default. Individuals are 20 times more likely to save if they're automatically enrolled. And they can opt out. They have the option to opt out. But it's much easier to get people to save and encourage people to save if it just happens automatically. And this has become the best practice. Thank you.
Senator Howe, the author of the A3 amendment, and we will vote right after your comments.
Thank you, Mr. President, but I do have a few questions for Senator Pappas, if she would yield.
Senator Pappas, will you yield? She will yield. Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Pappas, I just want you to take a look at lines 4.17 to 4.19, because I think there's some misunderstanding as far as how and when someone can opt out. Because I think you said after 30 days they can opt out whenever. Is that what those lines are saying?
Senator Pappas. We're giving her a minute. Senator Howe, she is talking. I'll just give her a minute so she can get the answer here. Senator Pappas.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. We're not being so specific because we really wanted to give the board an opportunity to look at what best practice is and what other states have done, but we are certainly encouraging them to make a determination as to when people can opt out, and we've said at minimum they should have the right at, annually or more frequently as determined by the board.
Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. But Senator Pappas, the way I read that is they have to...
Senator Howe, are you asking her to yield?
Not at this time.
Okay.
I'm making a comment, Mr. President, but I may get there. Might take me a bit, though, but I want to respond to that because if we look at that,
and
it says a covered employee...
Through me. Just respond through me and not talking to her directly.
I'm actually talking, I'm actually reading the piece. I'm just saying, if we look at that, members, it says a covered employee must have the right annually. So at least they're going to get to opt out annually, and it could be more frequently if determined by the board. So the best you can do right now by this language is you're going to, instead of saying quarterly, it's going to be up to the board to choose that. Right now, it's annually. But the other thing that I'm concerned about, members, is if you go up to lines 4.13 to 4.16, is the board must establish the default, the minimum, and the maximum employee contribution rates, which means you're going to get automatically enrolled. They're going to set the default amount, which you may not be able to afford to keep keep food on your table, and the board is going to determine how much you're going to contribute. That's why I believe this has to be an opt-in instead of an opt-out, because you're automatically going to get enrolled. They're automatically going to determine how much you're going to contribute, and then in a year, you might be able to opt out after you're kicked out of your home. So, members, that's why it's important to opt in so you know that what the contribution rate you're going to choose, how it's going to affect your income, and how it's going to do it. And I agree with Senator Pappas that you get more people saving, because in this plan, you don't have a choice. And members, we need to give the freedom to choose to the citizens of this state. I ask for a green vote, members.
The Secretary will take the roll on the A3 amendment. Members, please vote. Bless you. Senator Kunis, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Mr. President, Senator Bolden votes no.
Senator Bolden votes no.
Senator Gustafson votes no.
Senator Gustafson votes no.
Senator Latz votes no.
Senator Latz votes no.
Senator Mayquade votes no.
Senator Mayquade votes no.
Senator McEwen votes no.
Senator McEwen votes no.
Senator Port votes no.
Senator Port votes no.
Senator Putnam votes no.
Senator Putnam votes no.
Senator Morrison votes no.
Senator Morrison votes no.
Senator Murphy votes no.
Senator Murphy votes no.
And Senator Herr votes no.
Senator Herr votes no.
And one more, Senator Dietzick votes no.
And Senator Dietzick votes no. Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Draheim votes aye.
Senator Draheim votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
And thank you, Mr. President. Senator Pratt votes aye.
And Senator Pratt votes aye. All senators having voted who desires to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 33 ayes and 34 noes, the A3 amendment is not adopted. Senator Barr.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reading through the bill here, there's, as I mentioned earlier, I work for some rather small employers over the years. I have been a small employer of 4 people before, myself and 3 employees. And I noticed in the bill when you get to 5 or more, you have to participate in this program. So I'd like to offer the A2 if I could, Mr. President.
Senator Barr offers the A2 amendment. The Secretary will report the A2 amendment.
Senator Barr moves to amend House File Number 782, the first unofficial engrossment, as follows. Page 2, line 15, delete 5 and insert 25. This is the A2 amendment.
Senator Barr, to your A2 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, if I was at 4 employees and I wanted to hire another one, I am given the choice of hiring another employee. As a small business person, I may not have everything that I need in place. I'm just still kind of getting my feet under me, still struggling a little bit. And I may not want to hire a 5th employee because now I've not got another government mandate that I got to go through a whole bunch of paperwork, get all this signed up. I offered them all of my employees. So in an effort to actually get some, allow for business people to grow enough to be established, I would like to, in the amendment here, I'm changing the number of employees that are required for number of employees you have to participate from 5 up to 25. And that's a pretty small change. It's still kind of putting a whole bunch of people into this system, but we're giving small companies the opportunity to actually establish themselves and get their feet under them and then offer this program to their employees. And if the employees, if that's that big of a deal that they have to have a retirement program, we'll probably be working for somebody else. Retirement programs used to be an enticement to draw employees in. You know, employers will contribute more or less. 50 cents on the dollar, dollar for dollar, up to 6% of your wages. Those were an enticement to bring an employer on board. Well, if everybody has to do this, you've kind of lost your ability to get the enticement. So these smaller companies usually are offering higher wages, and we don't need a whole bunch of extra paperwork until we've actually got ourselves established. So with that, I'd ask for a green vote, Mr. President.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to roll call on this vote.
Roll call requested, roll call granted.
I just want to remind members that this is not a requirement for a 401k, and with an auto IRA, the employer actually is not allowed to contribute. So if an employer really wants to do that to entice workers to the workforce, then Secure Choice is not the right choice for them. They should set up their own 401k. But as we know, that's very burdensome to do and very difficult, as Senator Barr mentioned, when a new business is starting out. So this is just really a very simple way for a small business to be able to compete with the larger businesses that do offer 401ks. And it's a bad idea, though, to raise the number of workers, because it's mostly the small employers that are not offering a retirement plan. And if we exempt more of them, it'll make us even harder for us to address the retirement savings crisis. The smaller the employer, the less likely as workers are to have access to a retirement plan. Over 63% of workers in Minnesota firms with under 10 employees and about 49% of companies with between 10 and 24 employees lack a plan. Moreover, our bill is more in line with other states that have adopted this. There are 4 states that have absolutely no exemptions, which is the way we started out, and then we compromise to the 5 number. And there are 5 states that exempt 5 or more employees like we do. So we're really the standard, and we're right along with what aligned with what other states are requiring, and I urge members to vote no on the amendment.
Any additional discussions before we go to the author of the amendment for the last word? Seeing none, Senator Barr. Oh, hold it. Is there someone else? Oh, you're fine without being called? No problem. The secretary will take the roll on the A2 amendment. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page now. Senator Kunesh, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Mr. President, Senator Hauschild votes no.
Senator Hauschild votes no.
Senator Dietzig votes no.
Senator Dietzig votes no.
Senator Herr votes no.
Senator Herr votes no.
Senator Murphy votes no.
Senator Murphy votes no.
Senator Morrison votes no.
Senator Morrison votes no.
Senator Putnam votes no.
Senator Putnam votes no.
Senator Port votes no.
Senator Port votes no.
Senator McEwen votes no.
Senator McEwen votes no.
Senator Mayquade votes no.
Senator Mayquay votes no.
Senator Latz votes no.
Senator Latz votes no.
Senator Gustafson votes no.
Senator Gustafson votes no.
And Senator Bolden votes no.
Senator Bolden votes no. Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Draheim votes aye.
Senator Draheim votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Pratt votes aye.
Senator Pratt votes aye. All senators having voted who desires to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 33 ayes and 34 noes, the A2 amendment is not adopted. Any additional amendments? Seeing none, the secretary will give. Seeing none, the secretary will give the bill its 3rd reading.
House File Number 782, a bill for an act relating to retirement, establishing the Minnesota Secure Choice Retirement Program.
3rd reading. Any discussions on House File 782 as amended? Senator Howell.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. President, would Senator Pappas yield for questions?
Senator Pappas, will you yield? She will yield. Senator Howell.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senator Pappas, for yielding. if an employee that is in the program desires investment advice on the investments being offered, who do they go to?
Senator Pappas to the question.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senator Howe. And I know that you are in the Pensions Commission and heard a lot about this bill there, so I appreciate your informed question. That's the really exciting thing about this bill is that the State Board of Investment will be doing the investment with, a variety of options, and they will be able to share that with the employee, how they do the investment. And they get a very good rate of investment, far better than you could do on your own unless you're a very gifted investor. So I think the board will establish that information as well. They will not be able to have a personal financial advisor. The kind of people who want a personal financial advisor, like Senator Rasmussen, they can go out and set up their own plan and do the investments how they will. This is really for people, like mom and dad now, who might be mom and dad in the past, who really feel overwhelmed by the investment options, who don't know how to choose, who don't want to bother with it, but yet they really do need to save for their retirement. So through this system, all that's taken care of for them. Automatically enrolled, automatically invested, automatically escalated, and then after they try it out for a while and they don't like it, they can opt out. Or if they have a hardship issue, there will be allowances for that. They would be able to withdraw money and not pay any taxes on their contribution, but only on the investment amounts.
Senator Howe.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Pappas, I'm going to ask you to yield for another question, if you may.
Senator Pappas, will you yield? She will yield. Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, the question that I asked is if they want to, because there's not only one choice in the State Board of Investments, there's options, because I have some money going into the State Board of Investments and I have options. So if they're not quite clear on those options, the question was, where do they go get the advice? Because right now it sounds like the money's going to go in, SBI is going to go put that money someplace, and the employee has no choice where it goes. Now, I know that that's not true. So if they want advice on where they should put that money, is there a charge for that advice? Who do they talk to? Is there going to be a phone number to call? Just exactly who do they go to try to figure out which one of those choices they have to put their dollar? That's the question, Senator Pappas.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Senator Howe. This is kind of a new idea, and it's still in our state, and it's still evolving. But my understanding is that the State Board of Investment would provide the portfolio, and they could pick and choose among probably fairly limited options, but they would be able to do that.
Senator Howe.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for that answer, Senator Pappas. But that in lies the problem that I have with the program that we're setting up. Because I've always been a believer that if this private market offers the service, government shouldn't be involved in competition with the private market. And that's exactly what we're doing here, is now state government in the state of Minnesota is going to compete with private market, private investment firms that are going to be out there asking for people to invest. And right now, today, is the easiest it has ever been to invest in an IRA in that format. There's options for the Roth, there's option for a traditional, and they can sit down with an investment advisor and actually get an answer to how much they should put maybe in a traditional so they get a deduction off their taxes, how much they should put in a Roth so they can take it out tax-free, so they got a tax-free retirement, and they can actually figure out where they should be putting their money for the best kind of return in their process saving for retirement. That is why we shouldn't be in competition with the folks that are actually doing the business. Members, we tried to make it an opt-in, didn't work. We tried to increase the amount of employees it takes to actually trigger an employer having to do it. That didn't work. Members, give these people the option. If they want to do this, it's out there. It's available to them. If they can afford it, they can do it. But it shouldn't be a forced event for them to have to put money away. It's good for them to do that, but it should be an educated decision. There's no education going on this deal. You're just going to be forced. You're going to automatically be enrolled. They're automatically going to determine how much money they're going to take, and they're automatically going to invest it for you without the education you need to make an educated decision on how much and where you should be putting your money and whether it should be in a traditional or a Roth. You need somebody to explain those options so they have the information to make the correct choice in their financial condition and their retirement goals. Members, this is not the bill that we should be putting forward, and I ask you to join me in a red vote. Thank you, members.
Senator Pappas, you'll be the last one to speak. I let the others go before we let the author of the bill speak. We are now going to Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I have several additional questions now that we're on third reading. And Senator Howe brought up a really good point. In my experience with private employers, offerings of retirement plans and the employee given the option to opt in or opt out or participate, those private employers are not in the business of investment. So they contract out with other investment firms, Vanguard, and there's a whole host of them. And then the employee, with any questions, that employer, even the large employers, the HR department directs the employee to speak with the 401k or retirement plan operator. And that retirement plan operator has and is set up with the infrastructure necessary for a call center to answer any questions that might be if there's a life event and a person needs to opt in or opt out. And those are available immediately upon either a phone call or a website to execute those transactions. And then there are accounts that are set up via web that a person can go on and see what their fund is, what their rate is, make changes. Maybe they've moved, change of address, all that stuff. So I guess my first question, Mr. President, if Senator Pappas would yield. I asked if she would yield.
Will you yield? She will yield. Senator Lucero, I'm sorry, I was thinking about something else.
Multitasking,
I thought you were going to talk a little longer, so I'm sorry. Senator Pappas, she will yield. Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the question is, does the SBI currently have anything related to this? I do understand that the SBI currently is the administrator for pension plans and things like that, defined contribution plans. I am familiar with that. But I genuinely don't know if the SBI has anything similar currently with the infrastructure necessary to create online accounts for, I think the number was referenced, 700,000, to manage the IT infrastructure around that, or the call center. So the question, Mr. President and Senator Pappas, is, does the SBI currently have anything that's remotely similar to what is necessary for all of these functions that are going to be required to support, I think the number was 700,000 employees?
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Lucero, for that question. The State Board of Investment doesn't do administration. They just do investment. So the board would contract with a third party to do the administration. And something else that came up, which is about competition with the private sector. And actually, the Pew Charitable Trust did a study and found that in states that offer secure choice, it actually helps the private sector. And as a result of that, the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce and the Minnesota Insurance and Financial Service Council are not opposed to this legislation. They're really neutral on it. They should support it, but they're neutral on it. And the Chamber has said, members, they won't be scoring anything on the vote for this bill because they recognize that it's really important for people to save.
Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the answer I heard was that they will be contracting out with another institution to perform these services. If Senator Pappas would yield for another question.
Senator Pappas, will you yield? Yes, she will yield. Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Pappas. When I'm looking at the definition then of covered employee, it is actually rather slim line of what's written here on line 2.1 through 2.11. So my question is, the only distinction I see for the type of employee is age, aside from a few other, I think I see railroad, an employee of the United States, etc. So anybody who is older than the age of 18. So my question, Mr. President and Senator Pappas, would this also include seasonal employees, temporary employees, and perhaps employees that are in an industry whereby they're on probation?
Senator Pappas.
Mr. President, yes, they would be covered.
Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, that's very alarming because, again, I've already used the example of when I was younger in life, starting out in my life, and I took a number of jobs. I had a number of jobs at one time. And some of those jobs were seasonal or temporary in nature, whereby my sole purpose was, in the small window of time that we have here in Minnesota, I needed to maximize revenue income. And I would take those jobs, they might last 12 weeks long or some duration of summer in some industry. And if there's somebody then that, again, needs to maximize their revenue and they're not aware that they're going to be automatically enrolled, that's cause for concern. Mr. President, would Senator Pappas yield for another question?
Senator Pappas, will you yield? She will yield. Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Pappas. There are, I guess I would ask it this way, are illegal immigrants then going to be required, if they are employed by an employer, to be contributing to this plan?
Senator Pappas, to the question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Lucero, undocumented workers would be also covered by this plan if they meet the other requirements and they're working for businesses that has 5 or more employees. They also do pay into the tax system as well.
Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, it's my understanding that I see on line 3.3 that we have Internal Revenue Code referenced here. And certainly Internal Revenue Code is referenced in the Retirement Savings Plan in multiple areas of this bill. And then it's also my understanding that you are offering, I see on line 3.23 and line 3.25, both a Roth and traditional. A Roth being after-tax or post-tax dollars, and a traditional obviously being pre-tax dollars. In either of those cases, there's going to be the need for an A number, a Social Security number, that I would assume would have to be a requirement of the Internal Revenue Code that's part of this bill. So, Mr. President, would Senator Pappas yield for a question?
Senator Pappas, will you yield? She will yield. Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Pappas. So to adhere to the Internal Revenue Code, which is referenced in here, and if a person is an employee who's illegal and they don't have an A number and they don't have a Social Security number, how are they going to adhere to the Internal Revenue Code requirements as part of this bill?
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my understanding they're assigned a specific number so that they can be identified when they pay taxes. I assume it would work the same way.
Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, when I'm passing legislation, I don't want to assume, because we know what assume does to both you and me. So, Mr. President, would Senator Pappas yield for a question?
Senator Pappas will yield. Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Pappas. So who assigns these numbers, or what entity is generating these numbers, and who is tracking what database that assigns these numbers to the individual?
Senator Pappas.
Mr. President, we're really drifting far from the topic before us, where I really am not familiar with the IRS code. Perhaps you should address those questions to Senator Rest, our tax expert, then to me.
Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, it is my custom and usage. I'm not sure what everybody's laughing about, but
Senator, I think what they're excited about is just we're having a moment. Let me just say. Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, it's my custom as a member of the legislative body, when debating a piece of legislation, to ask the chief author and to have the expectation that the chief author be familiar with provisions in the bill. And the provisions in this bill continuously reference the IRS code, and it references pre-tax and post-tax options for this retirement account. And it is in my vast experience with a multitude of retirement accounts from both public and private employees, or employers, I should say, that Social Security and/or A numbers are required in regards to this, because there's a strict regulation that surrounds reporting and notification, quarterly notification, monthly notification, these statements, both to the individual, the participant, and to the employer, and to the IRS. Because there's distributions that can be taken, loans that can be taken, rollovers, all kinds of things. And all of those actions have to be reported to both the state and the federal government. And so I'm not going to ask Senator Rest to yield, because this is not Senator Rest's bill. The references in here are part of the chief author's legislation and proposal. The chief author had referenced, in the absence of somebody who doesn't have an A number and doesn't have a Social Security number because they are working illegally, that there is some entity that creates these numbers that are assigned. This is news to me. I've never heard of this before. So, Mr. President, if Senator Pappas would yield.
Senator Pappas will yield. Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just seeking clarity. I've never heard of this entity who creates these numbers. So if she could provide clarity, apparently she's heard of them. Who creates these numbers, and who tracks, what database is this tracked in for these individuals?
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my custom to ask Senator Rest to answer any questions that relate to taxes, because I invariably get it wrong.
Senator Lucero, will you now ask Senator Rest to yield?
No, Mr. President, I will not ask her to yield, because you know why?
Why?
I know better than to ask Senator Rest to yield.
You do know better than
I've
to
seen
ask
the
Senator
look on
Rest
her
to
face.
yield. So,
Mr. President, at this point, there's a number of unanswered questions in here. There's a number of concerns that I and other members have raised. It is not the role of government to act as a nanny state and say, we know better than you. We're going to automatically roll you in a revenue confiscation program and put it in this account over here without your affirmative consent, and then leave the burden to you to get your money back or to unenroll. That is not a best practice, and I don't care what Senator Pappas says. I don't care what piece of literature she's reading from somebody that thinks they themselves also know better and have devised probably some committee to establish some best practice to take people's money without their consent because they know better. That is not what we should be doing. We should be empowering people with life skills to make healthy choices in their life. We should be reducing the burdens in their life. If people are living paycheck to paycheck, and that's one of the contributing factors why people can't contribute to a savings account or retirement account, that's where we need to put our focus. Not passing nanny state legislation that's going to take money from people automatically because we, as the state of Minnesota, know better. Mr. President, vote no on this terrible piece of legislation.
Senator Aki, are you ready now?
Thank you, Mr. President. And I've got a question for Senator Pappas. So if Senator Pappas would yield.
She will yield. Senator Aki.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Pappas. Under in the back of the bill, there's a $5 million appears to be a one-time fee. But what my question will be, is that a one-time fee to start this up? Or are there any ongoing costs, and are there any FTEs involved? I guess that'll be my question.
Senator Pappas, to the question on page 13.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Udke. Yes, that's a one-time cost, and it will be up to the board to decide how many FTEs they need to implement the program. And then after the first couple years, when everything's established and they start collecting very modest fees from the participants, that will pay for the operations of the board.
Senator Aki.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Pappas. If she would yield for one additional follow-up question.
Senator Pappas, she will yield. Senator Aki.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Pappas, you did mention that there are some FTEs. That's just part of the startup, and as you see it, their payroll or those costs would be covered by a deduction from the assets that are managed? Is that so? There'd be no ongoing costs after that first time? Is that the way you see it?
Senator Pappas, to the question.
Yes, Mr. President, you are correct, Senator Udke, and I looked at the fiscal note, and there are 3 FTEs.
Senator Aki.
Thank you, Mr. President. And that, Mr. President, was all I had. I just wanted to clarify the costs and FTEs, so appreciate it. Thanks.
Senator Coran.
Thank you, Mr. President. Only can a Democrat bill called Secure Choice Act be considered a choice when it's mandated. To think about having government, anytime I think and I hear a comparison against other government entities, doesn't make it right. Doesn't mean it's going to be more efficient, more effective. I think the private sector is always and has proven to be a much more wise choice. If there was a way to increase participation to actually accomplish these goals, I think it's in the private sector, and I actually think it's through encouragement, tax policies, and those types of things that can ensure or encourage this behavior. The burden being placed on businesses in this cycle is significant. One of the dismissive comments I heard when this bill was presented to the state government was, this is just another spreadsheet entry. No, it's called another period of time called non-revenue generating hour, the regulatory burden placed on the cost of businesses in Minnesota. We have now another unelected board going to make significant decisions on an employee who exercises their choice by being mandated in this program again, that they're going to make a determination what your contribution is going to be. They're going to make a determination what your annual increase in your contribution is going to be until some arbitrary figure that this unelected board decides which will be your maximum contribution without little regard to your consideration and needs of your family. It also doesn't take into consideration of Didn't you just pass the paid family, paid medical? Don't worry, that's just another tax and less of your paycheck going home. Taking the choice away and adding these burdens are uncalled for. I think the other part that worries me when we think about this, government mandating more services, the expansion of these things, I think we already heard, or we attempted to get the question answered. Anybody with a Social Security number, an I-10, by the way, I-10s are issued, individual tax identification numbers are issued by the IRS, U.S. Treasury. The expansion of this, we have no trust that it's going to remain, even attempting to target and accomplish the intended goal, as stated, or kind of stated, and since we've given this unelected board amazing powers to create a program to whatever they choose. I don't think that best serves the Minnesota taxpayers. But one of the other comments I heard during our committee in state government was, this program would help us save Medicaid and Medicare dollars. Well, the only way that could happen is, and maybe that's the goal of this program, is this to help prepay or encapsulate and another tax, essentially another tax under the guise of freedom, that it's your retirement plan that we're helping you assist, we're mandating you participate in? Because the only way you could save millions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars, I believe, was through Medicaid and Medicare, is if this unelected board decides what's best for your heirs in the application of that asset upon your death. I have no trust that that board is going to represent the best needs of the citizen, that's mandated again, and or the family. So is the state going to make that debt determination, or what debt service gets paid first? We know what that means, because the only way you could achieve savings is if the state's the first heir. And that's not how it should work, Mr. President. For that, I encourage you no vote.
Senator Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to thank Senator Pappas for this bill. I think it's very important. I think sometimes some of us forget about what it was like to be a young adult, or especially have experience working with young adults from all walks of life. And the reality is people come from different places with different education in terms of finances, whether it be in their schools or from their parents. From my experience in the military, which is a wide cross-section, where when young people come in, their housing is provided, their food is provided, and so most of their income is discretionary. Even with that, some people just don't have those financial skills, and they get themselves in trouble with what they're buying, whatever else. People learn as they go along those financial skills. But if you don't start saving in your 20s, you get behind. And in fact, 55% of Americans are considered behind where they should be for retirement savings. Less than 40% of people start saving in their 20s, which is really when you need to start saving. And of people 59 and older, 27% have nothing set aside. And that's a really unfortunate situation for our Minnesotan families to be in. So I love that this is an opt-in, or that it's an opt-out program, because it takes that percentage that people, if they want it back, they can get it back, but it's a little bit that comes out that they don't have to think about as they're kind of learning about how to save financially, but it sets them up for a much better future. And I think that's what we want for our neighbors, is for them in their retirement to not do what some members of my community are having to do, which is, as their housing prices go up, they're having to go back to work at age 70, or move in with other retirees, or do other things. We want to set them up for success. And I think this is a really good start to get people going early, to set them up for success, to make them start thinking about their retirement. And again, they can opt out if this isn't something they want to do, but to make sure that we are helping all those people have a more comfortable retirement. Thank you, Senator Pappas. I'll be voting green.
Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I've listened to the speeches here tonight, and I need to touch on some things. Yes, everybody should save. That's a nice statement to make. Everybody should start saving in their 20s. I will tell you that families, including myself when I was in my 20s, and you're working and you're struggling because you know that at the end of the month your electric bill comes due or your telephone bill comes due, and you're already behind a month, and you're wondering where you're going to get the money. It's really nice to hear, hey, you need to save. But that's not always an option. It just simply is not. And if you've never been in that position, my hat's off to you. I mean, good for you. But that's not the real case. I can take you to places in my district right now where at least 2 or 3 times a year, I've got constituents that have the electric company at their door ready to shut off their electricity if they can't pay at least the 1 month that they're behind because they're behind 2. And they get up every morning and they go to work and they're trying to feed their families. And now the government's going to come in and say, we know what's best for you. You have to save. You might not be able to make your electric bill next month, but you'll have a little bit of money in savings put into an account that the state will decide how much that is. They don't know how much is going to be taken out. This is crazy to even think that you're going to pass this and say, we're going to start a retirement fund for you, and we'll decide how much we're going to take out and save for you. And then at the same time, if you've looked at your retirement accounts that have already come through the state, they're not looking so good. I have been trying for several months to look into the accounts and where the money's being spent, where it's being invested. I'm hearing reports on both state and federal levels that a lot of this money is being invested in companies that may be politically correct but are not making any money. And if I could finally dig down and get the information, it's seeming more and more to me like we're taking our retirement funds and putting them into politically correct companies that would not otherwise be viable if we weren't using our funds, our retirement funds, to shore them up. And now we're going to tell people that we're going to take that money. The other thing that this bill doesn't do that I can see, it doesn't have any opt-outs for temporary workers. So more and more we see in our society, unfortunately, that people go to work and they'll work maybe a week, 2 weeks, sometimes a couple months. And now we're going to take the little bit that they make and take more out of that by mandate. It's just wrong. And if they have got that money taken out and they switch jobs over the course of a year and they have 3 jobs, maybe it'll all end up in the same account, but where do they go to get that out if they need it back? What kind of a process do they have to go through to get that back? And if they need it? I've been listening to reports that are telling us that more and more people are racking up more credit card debt trying to maintain the life that they have right now, and they can't because of the inflation that's caused by all the borrowed money, the increased costs, and so far this year, all we've done is take more money out of their pocket, and now we're doing it again. So I guess, Mr. President, my message to the people out there is if this bill passes and you're working every day trying to make your payments, I hope that you're listening, because you better get down there and try to get an opt-out, because otherwise the state's going to be taking more of your money, handing it over to people you don't know, investing it in entities that you don't have any idea what they are, how much they're going to make. So I would hope that everybody would vote red on this.
The last voice we'll hear before we vote will be that of the author of the bill. Senator Pappas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members, for a very lively debate. I just want to remind members that this is an opportunity to put money in their pocket and save it for a safe and secure retirement. And I'm really reminded of my Aunt Rose. Aunt Rose didn't work so many hours before she got married, They were old-fashioned. She was a homemaker, took care of her family, had some part-time jobs, never really had an opportunity to save for retirement, and had very limited amount of Social Security. Her husband passed away at a younger age. She kind of went through his retirement plan to a point where she really was living on Social Security, $1,200 a month. The rent on her apartment was $900 a month. If she had an opportunity to have kind of a third leg of savings, not just her house that she went through, not just her husband's pension, not just Social Security, but a little nest egg that was put aside on her behalf, that could have been her food budget. So members, we're really talking about the same kinds of people that Senator Green was referring to, but helping them with an opportunity to save. The board can will set up the rules around hardship situations where you may need to withdraw from your account for a hardship, for a medical illness. You may need to withdraw from your account, maybe to put a down payment on a house. Those options will be made available. But in the end, you've got that safely invested by a very reputable investment service. Most of the time, a third-party entity that they hire to do the administrative could provide financial advice, probably on a fairly limited basis, but could provide financial advice to individuals who are part of the system. Finally, members, I want to do a thank you. First of all, I want to thank Susan Lincheski, who is the Executive Director of the Pensions Commission. Susan wrote this bill, and it's been a passion of hers to help get it in the right form, to do the research, to make sure she was there as a resource for us on the Pension Commission. I also appreciate the support from AARP and SEIU, who have been with me on this journey for the last 8 years in trying to get this bill past the finish line. And I also want to thank the Pew Charitable Trust and the treasurer from the state of Oregon, whose name escapes me right now, but who gave us some very sound advice in the process of how things have gone in Oregon. And then somebody kind of late to the table that I very appreciated coming on board is the American Retirement Association. All of these groups have recognized that this has been really a win-win for employers and employees. And with that, members, I would appreciate a green vote.
The Secretary would take the roll on final passage of House File 782. Members, please vote. Senator Kunis, those voting under Rule 40.7.
Mr. President, Senator Bolden votes aye.
Senator Bolden votes aye.
Senator Gustafson votes aye.
Senator Gustafson votes aye.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Senator McQuaid votes aye.
Senator McQuaid votes aye.
Senator McEwen votes aye.
Senator McEwen votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye.
Senator Putnam votes aye.
Senator Putnam votes aye.
Senator Morrison votes aye.
Senator Morrison votes aye.
Senator Murphy votes aye.
Senator Murphy votes aye.
Senator Herr votes aye.
Senator Herr votes aye. And who is present with us?
Where is he? Oh, you are.
He voted in person.
Senator Dietzick votes aye.
Senator Dietzick votes aye.
And Senator Hauschild votes aye.
And Senator Hauschild votes aye. And Senator Dietzick came in and voted as well. Senator Jasinski, those voting under Rule 40.7. When you're ready, sir. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Draheim votes no.
Senator Draheim votes no.
Senator Miller votes no.
Senator Miller votes no.
And thank you, Mr. President. Senator Pratt votes no.
And Senator Pratt votes no. All senators having voted who desires to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There have been 34 ayes and 33 noes. The bill is passed and is titled agreed to. Members, we are still on special orders. We will now proceed to number 149 on general orders. That would be House File 1234, Friends for Duty Disability Benefits Modification. With that being said, Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members. Very proud to stand before you and present House File 1234. The issue the bill seeks to address is simple. We've had a sharp increase in pension duty disability claims. It's now costing para, police, and fire $40 million a year. We want to help the men and women who serve our state and keep us safe by providing treatment for PTSD. We want to protect the pension fund integrity because it's for actives, retirees, and duty disabled members. And we want to protect our employers, including our cities and counties. First of all, members, this particular legislation passed the other body 89-41. This is a bipartisan topic. This is public safety, which matters to each and every person in each one of our districts. I want to start by saying thanks to my co-authors, Senator Dibble, Senator Nelson, Senator Seeberger. I want to thank the House author, Representative Khalil Her, for her work, also as the chair of the pension. Members, what is duty disability? Duty disability is a pension benefit available to members of public safety who suffer a disability in the line of work. Over the last 4 years, there have been a sharp increase. 80% of that increase are claims of post-traumatic stress disorder. We know more about post-traumatic stress disorder, and one thing the bill does is provide 24 weeks of treatment to try to help. We would like that person to have the benefit of the treatment. We would like that man or woman to go back to work in public safety if their doctor's okay with it, and we would like to provide the cost of that treatment, and the bill provides full pay while the 24 weeks of treatment's being taken, and the employer will pay the health care costs. If at the end of the 24 weeks, that person still is duty disabled, they can apply for the duty disability pension, essentially pay tax-free, and hopefully allow them to continue to get treatment and get better. Let me give you some perspective, members, on the situation that the state of Minnesota and the Para-Police and Fire Fund is facing right now. Many of you know the number of members of the public safety community in the state is about 23,000. Firefighters, police officers, paramedics. These are the people who put their life on the line to keep us safe. Currently, in para membership, there are about 11,600 that are active. These are men and women that are working every day to keep us safe and who have a portion of their check taken to put into para, police, and fire. They are active and contributing. There's another 10,100 that are retired and receiving a pension, or the spouses of members. Of that group, 23,000, there are about 628 who are disabled, over 55, and have no re-employment earnings. Members, this is an important concept, re-employment earnings. If a member's on full duty disability, but their doctor says they can do a different job, they can earn additional income. The offset provisions in this bill ask that member, when they are earning additional money over and above their full pension, to contribute back to the para fund. There are 740 members who are disabled under 55 that have no reemployment earnings. Here's the category that we'll be talking a little bit about tonight. Of the 23,000 members, there are 50 disabled members under 55 that are affected by the offsets in the bill, both 1 and 2. There are 82 members. Members, there are 82 Minnesotans who are facing an increase in pension contribution requirements because of this bill. And you would probably say, why is that? The reason is because the purpose of a pension disability benefit is to allow that injured person to have the same amount of money that they would have if they kept working, the same as workers' comp seeks to do, the same as the state patrol seeks to do. However, in this bill, we address the reemployment earnings offset. Unlike a state trooper, unlike someone on workers' compensation, those on duty disability and para, police, and fire can have reemployment earnings. Some of them up to 100% over and above their earnings at the time they were disabled. There are also 223 members of the public safety community that are under 55 but are only affected by the first offset. The average proposed offset is about $2,700. For the first category, the 82 members who are in both offsets, the current offset is about $3,400 on average, and the proposed offset is $17,900. So the bill increases the amount that those 82 Minnesotans in both offset categories are being asked to contribute. On your desk are letters of support from the major stakeholders here. There is a joint letter May 9th signed by the presidents of the Minnesota Professional Firefighters and the Minnesota Police and Peace Officer Association, in which they want you to know their full support. The letter says about the offsets, the MPPOA and MPFF ask you and all members of the State Senate to oppose any floor amendments that change the pension fund offsets in this bill. Without these offsets, our active members will bear a great cost to cover these increased claims, while our retirees' cost of living will remain inadequate. That is the general message I'm sending you on the offsets in this bill, is that it's required to keep the balance between the interest of the active members, the retired members, and those members of duty disability. The bill contains several provisions which relate to this. I mentioned 24 weeks of treatment. Members, this bill puts $100 million in a public safety account to pay the costs of the treatment, to reimburse the plan, to fund the employer's health care, and to make sure that those members of the public safety community can get the treatment that they need. It also pays these benefits up till normal retirement age, when these members are eligible to get their pension and their health care. It also requires the employer, that's the cities and counties, to provide a mental health plan which will reduce the need for officers to go on duty disability. What we'd like to do is have less officers affected by PTSD, and to protect those that are suffering from it, to treat them and return them to duty. And to do that, we're asking the employers to help. If the employers do not provide the plan to help reduce PTSD and make the employees aware they are not eligible for the reimbursement that's contained in the bill. There's also $4 million in the bill so that we can help para administer this plan and administer the offsets. Members, those are the basic things in the bill. What we're asking you to do is what the cities, the counties, the firefighters, the police officers are asking you to do, which is to support this bill. It is estimated in the information that para has provided that if we do not pass this bill and the deficiency, the money the plan's losing, is made up on the backs of the active members, that's the 22,000 plus that are not out on duty disability, that the average annual contribution increase will be $1,000. That's the amount of money that the active members will be asked to contribute if they have to make up these losses. That is why there's an equity issue in the offset, and that is why, members, I'm asking the Senate to vote this bill across in bipartisan fashion as it was in the other chamber. With that, Mr. President, I thank you and be happy to stand for questions.
Any amendments for House File 1234? Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would offer the A13 amendment.
Senator Rasmussen offers the A13 amendment. The Secretary will report the A13 amendment.
Senator Rasmussen moves to amend House File number 1234, the second unofficial engrossment, as follows. Page 36, line 10, after 2023, insert. This is the A13 amendment.
Senator Rasmussen to your A13 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment I view as an administrative amendment. It clarifies when the offsets in the bill would apply. The amendment would make that any offset change would apply in the calendar year after reapplication. This has two benefits for the bill. One is that it will help para administratively avoid having to have two different sets of offsets within the same calendar year for the duty disability members affected. And second, this also gives duty disability members impacted by the offsets more time to plan for the impact that this will have on them. And so with this amendment, the vast majority of duty disability members that are impacted by offsets won't be impacted until 2025 or 2026. And Mr. President, members, this amendment has been discussed with all the stakeholders. They are all supportive or neutral on this amendment, and MPPOA and the firefighters are supportive of this amendment going on the bill today. And I just want to thank especially all the duty disability members who live in the district that I represent for their feedback on this amendment and on this bill, and I appreciate those conversations, and that's one of the key reasons I'm offering this amendment today.
Senator Frentz to the A13 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Rasmussen. Your work on pensions in general and this bill in particular is outstanding. I accept the A13 as a friendly amendment. Members, what this is doing is not just technical and administrative. It's a positive step that will make it easier to administer and give a little breathing room to those members of the duty disability community. To be clear, members, I'm asking the chamber to vote yes on the A13 amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any additional discussion on the A13 amendment? Senator Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank Senator Frentz and Senator Rasmussen for working on this. I have a couple of these members in my community, and you know, having this change is something significant to them. So the fact that we're working with that timeline, I know is greatly appreciated. And as I said, I really just want to acknowledge and thank you for working on that and making that an improvement to what was already a good bill.
All in favor of the A13 amendment, say aye. All those opposed, say no. The A13 amendment is adopted. Any additional amendments? Senator Howe.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. And what I'd like to do is actually walk you through how this bill came to be in the form that it was when it got picked up by the folks that are carrying it today. And members, over 2 years ago, there was a group of us that identified that this was going to be a problem, that people were suffering and going out the door with a number of ailments, including PTSD. So we got together with the major stakeholders, and we had weekly meetings, most of last session and the session before. Members, it was tough to navigate because there was a lot of naysayers about this bill and a lot of naysayers on what it should look like. So there was a bill drafted, and we went through it line by line. Whenever somebody had a problem with a section, we discussed it, and we resolved it. But there was some folks that you just couldn't satisfy. Just couldn't get there. But we just put that stuff in the bill anyway. Because I tell you what, at the end of the day, my feeling was there was nothing we could do to satisfy them with this bill. They showed up every meeting, complaining about all kinds of stuff, and we put it in the bill. And we put it in the bill. And we put it in the bill. Because my point was we couldn't make this bill good enough for them. To the point that they walked away and didn't join us any longer because they knew that this bill was going to go forward, even though it had all their stuff in it. Well, that's part of my problem with this bill, is because it's got stuff in it that I don't think is the right answer. Members, the firefighters, the professional firefighters in our state and in our country, the IAFF, the International Association of Firefighters, who I used to be a member of, have a program that if you have issues with PTSD, they have a program of 5 weeks inpatient treatment, and it's got a number of different treatment plans, but you got 5 weeks of inpatient treatment, and it has over a 90% success ratio. And when I talk success, that means taking people and bringing them back to the job, putting them back in uniform, and working. You know, our pension plan wouldn't have to do anything with the offsets if you had people going back to work. Because what we're doing with the offsets is fixing the symptoms. We're not fixing the problem. Treatment is the fix to the problem. Now you're going to say, well, you got the other end of the deal. Well, what about the veterans? Well, the VA has a 3-week inpatient program that has over a 50% success ratio. Also inpatient, does the same type of format that the firefighters use. In my opinion, and people will differ with me, but I believe that the people that keep us safe, the Minnesota public safety folks, deserve the best treatment we can give them. It's good for them, it's good for us, and it keeps them in the career that they've chosen to serve. So members, with that, I'm going to offer the A14 amendment.
Senator Howell offers the A14 amendment. The Secretary will report the A14 amendment.
Senator Howell moves to amend House File Number 1234, the second unofficial engrossment, as follows. Page 8, line 11, delete F and insert G. This is the A14 amendment.
Senator Howell, to your A14 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this amendment amends the treatment cycle and amends the treatment. It follows the International Association of Firefighters treatment program. See, what I did in the interim, besides having a primary and an election, I also did my homework on what the Veterans Program does and what the International Association of Firefighters. In fact, the firefighters were so concerned about losing the ability to use their program, there's a section here on page 7 in the definition of treatment that specifically lays it out so they can continue to use their program. That's how important it was for them. Why isn't it important for the rest of the public safety folks? And I believe it should be. So what this amendment does is it takes out that 14 weeks or 24 weeks of, yeah, you can go see your therapist once a week, to actually outline in the treatment that has been successful for the firefighters to bring them back and keep them in uniform and keep them on the job. It outlines the same program and treatment, and it's not just one treatment, it's a multitude of different options that they can provide, and it integrates that into a program, 6 weeks inpatient. If that doesn't work and you need another 6 weeks, you can get another 6 weeks, and then there's 8 weeks of aftercare to help you be successful. Members, that's what we need to do. We need to provide the best treatment capabilities that we have to our public safety professionals. I'm passionate about this because I've seen my fellow firefighters and our police officers suffer with this stuff. I've seen my soldiers suffer with this stuff. And I'm all about helping them stay in their chosen profession. And you're going to tell me, well, it's not all one size fits all, and this is not a one size fits all if you do your homework and check what this says. I've done my homework. I've worked on this thing for over 2.5 years. Members, this is the answer to the problem. It doesn't do anything with the offsets. It doesn't do that, but I tell you what, this will fix the offsets because we won't need it, because you'll actually keep them working and they won't be on a duty disability pension. They'll be back in boots, working and serving our communities and our state. That's what this amendment does, folks. And I'll stand for questions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Frentz to the A14 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Howe. I know very well how much work you put in on the issues of public safety. I know your family's connection to it, and I have deep respect for it. Members, I'm asking you to vote no on the amendment. First of all, we have a stakeholder process now almost a year in which this language, subdivision 4, and the treatment required was agreed to by all the stakeholders. I agree with Senator Howe. We want to do everything we can to provide the care for these members of our public safety community and hopefully to return as many of them as possible to full duty. Just to review what the stakeholders have agreed to that's in the bill before you, and to remind everybody why they're asking to keep the bill in the shape that they put it in. And by the way, this includes MPFF, the Minnesota Police Chiefs, the sheriffs, MPPOA, the cities, the counties. Subdivision 4, the employee shall complete up to 24 weeks. It's flexible for what that healthcare professional thinks that patient needs. An employee's treatment shall be at the direction of a mental health professional, using treatment modalities indicated for the treatment of the diagnosed illness. So we're saying the doctor says what the patient needs best. The employee's mental health professional must assess the employee's progress in treatment monthly and at the end of the 24 weeks or earlier, including any change to the employee's ability to return to the position held by the employee. Complete the report. The employee may return to full or part-time work prior to the completion of the 24 weeks if the employee's mental health professional determines that the employee is medically able to do so. We'd be glad to find members responding positively to the treatment and return to work. D, the employee may return to light duty assignments subject to availability of a position prior to the completion of the 24 weeks. If there's work available in the sheriff's office, the police department, the firefighters, the paramedics, that light duty accommodates, we'll take it. Members, this language that's in the bill right now is what the stakeholders said they wanted, and I can assure each one of you of two things. One, that the type of treatment was a robust discussion. This is what they wanted. And two, that there will be continued discussions showing that treatment is a high priority in the bill and in what we're doing for these members. And if additional treatment or the change of the type Senator Howe's talking about becomes clear that that is the best path for treatment, you can bet that the Minnesota Senate will be seeing a bill very soon to adopt that treatment parameter. With that, members, I would ask you for a no vote on the A14 amendment.
Senator Klein.
Mr. President, I request a roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Any other discussion before we end with the amendment author? Seeing none, Senator Howe.
Well, members, I will tell you that the stakeholders who I met with for over 2 years never seen this option for treatment, except for the MPFF. The Minnesota Professional Firefighters thought it was so important, they put their in the bill. So they're in support of this program. Why? Because they've got their treatment for inpatient in the bill. They're getting the best. The rest of them don't know this exists. They don't know that. So yeah, they're all for what's currently in the bill because they haven't seen this and haven't researched what this actually can provide them and actually save their members and keep them in boots. Members, I ask you to do the right thing. I ask you to vote green and provide the best treatment out there for our Minnesota public safety officials. Members, this is an opportunity to provide the treatment that these folks need. Support the amendment, folks, and support your public safety. Thank you.
The Secretary take the roll on the A14 amendment. Members, please vote. Senator Murphy, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Bolden votes no.
Senator Bolden votes no.
Senator Gustafson votes no.
Senator who?
Gustafson.
Gustafson votes no.
Senator Latz votes no.
Senator Latz votes no.
Senator McQuaid votes no.
Senator McQuaid votes no.
Senator McEwen votes no.
Senator McEwen votes no.
Senator Port votes no.
Senator Port votes no.
Senator Putnam votes no.
Senator Putnam votes no.
Senator Morrison votes no.
Senator Morrison votes no.
Senator Dietzick votes no.
Senator Dietzick votes no.
Senator Hauschild votes no.
Senator Hauschild votes no.
Senator Dibble votes no.
Senator Dibble votes no. Senator Rest, are you going to vote? Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Draheim votes aye.
Senator Draheim votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
And thank you, Mr. President. Senator Pratt votes aye.
And Senator Pratt votes aye. All senators having voted who desires to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 31 ayes and 33 noes, the A14 amendment is not adopted. Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I hope that that comes back in the next session, and I hope that we don't lose more officers because we're not providing the correct treatment. But members, another piece of taking care of our folks is that currently, when you go out on a duty disability, you're provided, you and your family, health care coverage till you're 65. And I think that's a very important provision. This bill and current law does not protect that. Members, I believe that members should not be able to assign that right to that continued right to health care coverage and health insurance coverage, because what happens is we got some, this was in the bill, and I'm going to be pretty honest about this. I'm going to be up front. We had two organizations that went together to get this out of the bill. The chair of the committee likes this provision. Right now, the League of Minnesota Cities likes to get rid of this insurance because it saves the city some money. And our good trial attorneys like this provision because they get a cut of that money. All at the expense of our public safety folks. So members, with that, to protect our public safety families, I offer the A7 amendment.
Senator Howe offers the A7 amendment. The Secretary will report the A7 amendment.
Senator Howe moves to amend House File Number 1234, the second unofficial engrossment, as follows. Page 2, after line 29, insert. This is the A7 amendment.
Senator Howe to your A7 amendment.
Thank you, members. And sorry I get a little wound up, but I'm very passionate about this because I've seen too much of it. Members, this says that you cannot assign your right to continued health insurance coverage away and get it bought out. Members, this is a benefit that was we give this because we know that they probably can't find another job that's going to give them health care coverage. This protects that family. This protects them to continue to give those family members of that public safety official that's out on a duty disability health insurance coverage until 65. Members, we shouldn't let folks see green dollars and sell their safety net out for a couple of measly bucks and let some attorney walk away with a big cut. Folks, let's protect our public safety families and ensure they have health care coverage until they're 65. Members, I don't know why we would ever allow them to sell that off. So members, please support this, and I'll answer any questions. Thank you, Mr. President.
To the A7 amendment, Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you again, Senator Howe. I have no doubt that what you're looking for is to try to protect the men and women that keep us safe. Members, I'm asking you to vote no on the A7 amendment, and there is a little more to the story here. If a member is out on duty disability and receives the duty disability pension approval from para, police, and fire, they're going to get their income replacement. That's a good thing. However, the employer can still deny the health care portion by claiming that they do not owe it. This provision was in the bill and was taken out about 5 seconds after we learned the cost to the employee, which was estimated by the League of Minnesota Cities as between $8,800 and $20,000. It is not like workers' compensation, where it is almost free to get a hearing. You must take it before an administrative law judge, and by rule, the employee must bear half of that cost. Once we learned of that important fact, we removed that provision from the bill because obviously we cannot put the employee, that's the firefighter, the paramedic, the police officer, in a situation where they've just been disabled from work and are asked to bear half of that expense because they might win the hearing over whether they get their health care. And therefore, the obstacle that we would be creating for those duty disability members whose employers denied their health care coverage, which to Senator Howe's point about cities and counties is frequent. The provision was removed and all stakeholders are aware. I would add this, just as a member of the Senate like you receiving a lot of emails, I have not received a single email from a duty disabled member who has asked about this provision, nor have the unions that represent police and fire said that they want it to remain in the bill. With that, members, I ask everyone to vote no on the A7. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any additional discussions on the A7 amendment before I go to the author of the A7 amendment? Seeing none, the final words that we'll hear is from Senator Howe, who is the author of the A7 amendment, before we vote.
Well, members, that's another, I can see the handwriting on a wall that this is going to be another disappointing piece of not supporting our public safety officials. Members, what's going on is you got law firms out there that see this as a great payday. And the only way to prevent that is to put this provision in. It was in, and then they took it out. Members, I think it's a huge disappointment if this doesn't go on, because if the other provision for the treatment didn't go on, we need to put this provision on. With that, I ask for your support.
Senator Howe, were you asking for a roll call vote? Oh, I just want to make sure. Senator Frentz, did you ask for one?
No, but I would request a roll call, Mr. President.
Roll call vote, request a roll call granted. The Secretary will take the roll on the A7 amendment. Members, please vote. Senator Murphy, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Bolden votes no.
Senator Bolden votes no.
Senator Gustafson votes no.
Senator Gustafson votes no.
Senator Latz votes no.
Senator Latz votes no.
Senator McQuaid votes no.
Senator McQuaid votes no.
Senator McEwen votes no.
Senator McEwen votes no.
Senator Port votes no.
Senator Port votes no.
Senator Putnam votes no.
Senator Putnam votes no.
Senator Morrison votes no.
Senator Morrison votes no.
Senator Dietzick votes no.
Senator Dietzick votes no.
Senator Hochschild votes no.
Senator Hochschild votes no.
And Senator Dibble votes no.
Senator Dibble votes no. Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Draheim votes aye.
Senator Draheim votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Pratt votes aye.
Senator Pratt votes aye. All senators having voted who desires to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 30 ayes and 34 noes, the A7 amendment is not adopted. Any additional amendments for this House file? Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. President.
No problem. Senator Howe.
Well, folks, if we're not going to prevent and protect their hospitalization insurance, their health care insurance, then at least, it shouldn't make any difference if you get a disability physically through workers' comp, or if you get a duty disability through PTSD or through this duty disability process. Let's make sure that we don't have attorneys that are taking a big cut of the settlement. So, members, I believe that it shouldn't make any difference whether you go through workers' comp or you go through the duty disability. I think the limitation on the attorney fees should be the same. And with that, I offer the A8 amendment.
Senator Howe offers the A8 amendment. The secretary will report the A8 amendment.
Senator Howe moves to amend House File Number 1234, the second unofficial engrossment, as follows. Page 6, after line 14, insert. This is the A8 amendment.
Senator Howe to your A8 amendment.
Members, just what I said before, attorney fees should be capped just like they're capped with the other process. And I'm drawing a blank.
It's okay for you to draw a blank.
If they go through the workers' comp process, the legal attorney fees are capped. We should do the same with this process. This shouldn't be a big payday for a law firm. Members, let's protect our public safety folks, at least by protecting their pocketbook. And if they're going to go through that process of assigning their health insurance, and they're going to go through this, let's at least protect them from unscrupulous or attorneys, and let's make it so it's actually the same, and we protect them, and at least they know what the legal fees are going to be. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll stand for questions.
Senator Kupek.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would request a roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you again, Senator Howe. Members, to be clear, I'm asking you to vote no on the A8 amendment for a couple reasons. First of all, the workers' comp system is not the same as the duty disability system. As I just mentioned to you, we had confirmation from the League of Minnesota Cities about the cost of going through the duty disability system, and it is quite a different trip from the work comp system. But second is the same reason as the previous amendment. No cops or firefighters are reaching out to us asking for us to do this. None of the stakeholders that have put in a year's work on this to bring the bill to where it is are asking us to do this. There is no request, and the reason is because they know what they're saying and they don't want it. Members, vote no on the A8 amendment.
Any additional discussions on the A8 amendment before we go to the author of the A8 amendment? Seeing none, Senator Howell, before we vote.
Well, members, I've had the IAFF say they support it, but they're worried about changing this bill and amending this bill because they're worried it's going to go down if there's an amendment to it. I don't believe protecting their legal fees is going to affect the passage of this bill. Members, let's do something right in this process and do it for the right reasons. Because, you know, the stakeholders are the same stakeholders I worked with. And I don't know, maybe they didn't see this. The ones that I've talked to that have seen this are supportive of this. But the main thing you hear all the time, there's a lot of misinformation floating around out there about this bill. It's unbelievable how many folks you talk to, and they're all over the map. But members, this is a good amendment, and I didn't say it had the same process. The processes through workers' comp is much different than this, much more arduous to go through than this process. But you know what, folks? That doesn't mean we limit them on the most arduous process, and on this one, take whatever percentage you want. It's open field. Whatever you can get them to agree to is good. I don't believe that's the way it should work. So members, please vote green and support the amendment.
The Secretary would take the roll on the A8 amendment. Members, please vote. Senator Murphy, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Bolden votes no.
Senator Bolden votes no.
Senator Gustafson votes no.
Senator Gustafson votes no.
Senator Latz votes no.
Senator Latz votes no.
Senator McQuaid votes no.
Senator McQuaid votes no.
Senator McEwen votes no.
Senator McEwen votes no.
Senator Port votes no.
Senator Port votes no.
Senator Putnam votes no.
Senator Putnam votes no.
Senator Morrison votes no.
Senator Morrison votes no.
Senator Dietzick votes no.
Senator Dietzick votes no.
Senator Hauschild votes no.
Senator Hauschild votes no.
Senator Dibble votes no.
Senator Dibble votes no. Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Draheim votes aye.
Senator Draheim votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Pratt votes aye.
And Senator Pratt votes aye. All senators having voted who desires to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 30 ayes and 35 noes, the A8 amendment is not adopted. Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it. First, I want to thank Senator Rasmussen for getting on the amendment that he did earlier, which seeks to give a little bit more time to those officers or first responders or public safety folks who are having a fairly significant change thrust upon them to consider how it might impact them, their families, their finances. I think that's a very good amendment, and I appreciate the bill's author for accepting that amendment. However, I don't think it solves a very glaring issue within this bill. And I want to be clear, there are many aspects of the bill that I think are great. In particular, I have a very dear friend and her husband who live in my district, I've known for many years, who stand to be positively impacted by another provision in this bill. And I appreciate the folks who have done the work to get it to where it is. However, about a month ago, as this bill was becoming well known and being heard in committee, we started to receive a lot of input from some very scared, anxious, and nervous folks regarding their benefits. And I understand that there are certain organizations who have provided letters who are supportive of the bill in its entirety. I can appreciate that. There are a couple others, like the Law Enforcement Labor Services Group, the Hennepin County Association of Paramedics and EMTs, and Family First for First Responders organizations that don't entirely agree with all aspects of the bill. And then add to that several emails directly from people who are going to be impacted by this bill, who don't want to see a particular provision passed that's going to negatively impact them and their families, Mr. President. And as I've shown, there are plenty of letters that have been submitted. I'm obviously not going to read all of them, but I do want to share some of the comments from them so people understand the true impact of this bill and what people are going to have to be dealing with. One letter says, "My husband was in service to the city of Minneapolis as a police officer for 26 years. Sadly, his career was cut short due to a career-ending injury. He was devastated when he realized he needed to leave work as a police officer. We had to make some tough decisions with our finances, as leaving the department meant a significant decrease in our household income. We lost $30,000 annually. We were able to refinance our house and found a way to make our new financial normal work. One of the things that has helped my husband is finding a small amount of reemployment. It's given him a sense of purpose since leaving the department. However, if this bill passes, we will not make it financially, and it will be a tremendous psychological and emotional hit to my husband, who is just beginning to find a sense of happiness again. We would lose another $30,000 annually, and my husband would be forced to stop working. The financial hit will simply make it impossible to keep our home, the house we raised our children in, and the only home they've ever known will be lost." Another letter. "I have 11 years of law enforcement experience between my time as a military police officer in the Marines, and the last 6 years were spent with the Rochester Police Department. In November of 2021, I responded to a critical incident with an infant death. It wrecked me hard. I knew it was affecting me, so I immediately sought out therapy. I was fortunate to find a new job unrelated to law enforcement that allowed me to provide for my family with the help of my para-retirement. Now, if this bill goes through, I won't have enough money to provide for my family." Another. "I was a Minneapolis police officer for 15 years, a patrol officer in the 3rd Precinct at the time of the riots. The last 6 months of my career were extremely traumatic and have changed who I am. I was one of the officers that barricaded ourselves inside the precinct prior to us fleeing for our lives and the precinct being burnt down. I've been diagnosed with PTSD and depression since I left my job due to my mental health. The proposed changes to the earnings offset are life-changing and could sweep the home out from under me, my wife, and 2 daughters. The fear of having my benefits completely stripped away during the reapplication process has only increased the anxiety I deal with on a daily basis." From another public safety officer. "I wanted to be a police officer since 9/11. I finally got the chance to be a cop in Minnesota in 2016 in Hastings. I ended up needing shoulder reconstruction surgery to fix the damage it left after I got into an altercation with the suspect. I was terminated and left to fend for myself and had very limited mobility in my arm. My husband and I have struggled financially since my police career ended. Right now we make around $30,000 a year at our jobs. We rely on my para check each month to make ends meet, buy food, and pay for childcare. This bill is going to make us struggle. We just bought a house and welcomed our 2nd child, and now we are preparing to be unable to afford our home and other items we need. We have started to repack our home. I didn't ask for this injury. I was a police officer for the city of Mankato from 2007 until I was forced to retire due to injuries I suffered during a shooting only 7 weeks into my career. For saving the lives of 2 young women from a man set on murdering them, I received the Medal of Honor and the Medal of Valor for life-saving and bravery. Now, almost 10 years after I was forced to retire, this bill will take my entire disability benefit. I will lose approximately $31,000 a year in take-home pay overnight. This will financially cripple my family, and we will likely lose our home. Heroes shouldn't be forced out of their homes for doing everything right. My wife and son shouldn't be punished for my sacrifices to the community. I was promised I'd be taken care of when I signed up and didn't hesitate to put my life on the line for those who couldn't protect themselves. All I'm asking is to keep the promise that was made to me in exchange for the pain I still deal with every day. I was a police officer for 21 years. I was one of the souls left inside the Minneapolis 3rd Precinct in May 2020. The event and subsequent weeks changed my life tremendously. I arranged my life around a set of financial circumstances I believed to be fairly guaranteed. I and many others essentially stood in the literal fires while the rest of the world watched on their television screens from the safety of their living rooms. My husband has served the people of Hennepin County on the worst day of their lives for the last 20 years. He left birthday parties and Christmas Eve celebrations. He gave from his heart. He gave to make this dark world better. But these gifts came with a heavy price. The price was mental health, insomnia, anxiety, flashbacks, and overall disinterest in the typical joys of life. He was losing his life. I was losing my husband. The children were losing their father. Please don't stand silently by and allow this bill to pass. These next few will go much faster. I just want to highlight a couple of things that folks have said. The bill will cripple me and my family, as well as so many others. It will be very hard to pay basic bills in my household. I will be unable to save for household or vehicle emergencies, unable to save for my family's future. I will be unable to continue my regular doctor visits for my injury. This would impact this individual $22,000 annually, $29,000 annually, $35,000 annually. This person says, I stand to lose $42,000 a year, $35,000 a year, which pays the mortgage. We will be unable to afford our home. If I lose 25% of my income, I cannot survive. This is the last one I'll share. The new proposed offsets will financially devastate my family. $29,000 a year gone. My husband and I made financial decisions based on those promises. To have those promises ripped away from us will affect our ability to pay our mortgage, bills, and daily necessities of life. It will dramatically affect our two children, ages 11 and 13. Members, there were countless emails and stories that shared very similar sentiments. I know many of you received them as well. And I think it uncovers a very glaring issue with this bill, which is why I'd like to offer the A11 amendment, Mr. President.
Senator Duckworth offers the A11 amendment. The Secretary will report the A11 amendment.
Senator Duckworth moves to amend House File Number 1234, the second unofficial engrossment, as follows. Page 35, line 26, delete everything after 2023 and insert a period. This is the A11 amendment.
Senator Duckworth to your A11 amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment seeks to solve the issue I just described. There are a certain portion of folks who have been receiving this benefit for years. And what the bill would unfortunately do is completely change the financial situation that these folks and their families have planned for and have based their lives on. So what this bill will allow us to do is grandfather them under the agreement and the promises that were made, and then allow for the changes in the bill to take effect and be implemented on those that come after its passing date. So really all it does, very simply, Mr. President, to help the people who I just described to you, is grandfather them in, keep them whole, honor the promise that the state of Minnesota made to them for their service and sacrifice, and then allow the changes that need to be made financially to help this move forward. And one more thing I'll add, Mr. President, it does this by taking $2.5 million from the general fund. And here's what else I'll tell you. If we are so concerned about a potential fiscal calamity regarding this pension fund, the state of Minnesota has $19 billion. We've got enough money to fix this issue, not only for the people I'm talking about, but for our folks in public safety moving forward. Thank you.
Senator Kupek.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would request a roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Senator Frentz.
Well, Mr. President, thank you. And Senator Duckworth, I want to start by thanking you not only for the voice that you gave to these members of the public safety community, but for showing real heart and doing it. Those are the stories that have meant the most to many of us, including me. Those are the people that went out and agreed to protect and keep us safe, and they suffered a disability, and their stories are compelling. And I want to thank you, Senator Duckworth, also for the way that you have engaged on this topic, brought amendments to talk about, told me how much it mattered, and I'm positive that's because it's true, it really does. Members, I want you to vote no on the A11, but I want to give you a reason that will matter to you. And I'm not talking about the letter that's here on your desk from the police and fire organizations, the ones that represent the 23,000, that said, we ask you and all members of the state Senate to oppose any floor amendments that change the pension fund offsets in the bill. Now, you might be saying, why would those organizations who know the best what kind of sacrifices the men and women of public safety make ask you to make no changes to the offsets? Well, it's partly because this is an agreement that's been worked on over a year. It's partly because those offsets were improved for the members of the public safety community. But it's mostly because of the need to balance the interests of the active members, the retired members, and those that are out on duty disability. To return to the facts. Senator Duckworth is talking about members of our community that we respect and appreciate that are affected by both the offsets in the bill. That is 82 members of the Minnesota public safety community, each one of them respected by everyone in this chamber. However, first of all, the offsets apply an average of $17,900, and of course the offsets currently in law are $3,400. So the average impact on these members of the community is about $14,000. And I know that's a lot of money, and I know not every one of those 82 families has that. However, a couple things to keep in mind, and if you're still wondering why these groups are asking you to not change the offsets, here's the gist of it. The para-police and fire duty disability benefit is 60% of the annual salary tax-free. In other words, it's an attempt to give the duty disability member the same amount of money to spend after taxes as they were earning. That's a good thing. The employer also pays the health care. That's a good thing. The offsets apply to those in the community of duty disabled who have reemployment earnings. And by the way, you may have guessed by now, that is not the entire duty disability community. Many have no reemployment earnings. But to the questions raised by the math in the examples that were read, first of all, if a duty disability recipient has more than 20 years on the job, the offsets don't apply at all. As to someone who would lose $35,000 by this bill, that would mean, in rough numbers, that they are earning $100,000 over and above their duty disability salary at the time they were hurt. In other words, members, if you were to take, just for example, a member who received a duty disability benefit at age 30, and they were earning $90,000 or $100,000, they get a tax-free duty disability benefit of $60,000, and then, and this is a good thing, their doctor says they can go back out and earn. They earn another $100,000. The take-home impact of someone making in the neighborhood of twice what they were making when they were duty disabled. What the unions that are asking you to vote no on the amendment offsets are saying is that on behalf of the active members, the retired members, and the duty disability community, they want you to protect the integrity of the para, police, and fire itself, and at a level of 200% of the total, they want you to chip in more. That will help protect the fund and also help preserve one of the pension principles, which is when we send someone out on duty disability, we want to provide for them because that injury is preventing them from feeding their family. That is the spirit and the letter of the duty disability law. However, once that person's ability to earn income reaches these levels, then we're asking them to contribute back to the fund. and to remain a part of parapolice and fire, not just for the benefit of the retirees, but for those actives, and to preserve the fund, to keep it going so that we can recruit and retain the next generation. For those reasons, members ask you to oppose the A1 amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Kroon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of Senator Duckworth's A11 amendment. I also want to reiterate there are many, many good things in this bill. The early treatment for PTSD is something we need to do. Whether we can make that even stronger in future years is something we should consider, but this is a good start. Not just for the good of the pension fund, but because it's the right thing to do for our police and firefighters. And I like the treatment of how our duty disability members that are totally and permanently disabled are treated under this bill. So there are some good things. But Mr. President, the offset provisions in this bill are wrong, and this amendment will make it right. Mr. President, I'm incredibly frustrated by the position that this bill puts us in. I understand the fiscal concerns here, but we started this session with a $19 billion surplus in this state, and we've spent nearly all of it. And yeah, perhaps the budget targets for pensions were not nearly as big as they should have been, and that's the reason we're in this position. And can we honestly say that the money we've spent in this session is more important than taking care of our disabled police officers and firefighters? I don't think so. And yet here we are. After spending billions and increasing taxes, we're asking our duty disability members to sacrifice their earned benefits. Mr. President, they've already sacrificed. They've sacrificed their mental health. They sacrificed their marriages. They sacrificed their families. They've sacrificed their physical well-being. Some of these people have been shot in the line of duty. They made these sacrifices for our communities, for our state, and for us. Like I said, I realize the fiscal situation this fund is in, but maybe we need to ask why the rate of disability applications has skyrocketed in the last few years. We've asked our police officers to step into situations we've never asked them to do before. They protected Minneapolis as it burned, when the rioters burned it. They protected this Capitol from civil unrest. All the while, they're unjustly vilified by too many so-called leaders in this state. Yet they did their job anyway. They did it professionally, honorably, and they continued to do their job in the wake of the predictable crime spike that ensued after that vilification and abuse that they took. Of course, officers are getting PTSD at alarming rates and applying for service disability at higher rates. There are fiscal issues with the pension, but there are better ways to address this than by taking away existing earned benefits from disabled officers. And I want to talk about incentives for a minute. Our duty disability members should be incentivized to work. This is not only beneficial to the fund, but it is also healthy for them. Getting outside of the home to work and to contribute to society helps them heal, regardless of the income that they're bringing, and we should want them to strive to better themselves economically. Without this amendment, there will be a disincentive to work. The incentive will be to stay home and rot. That is not humane. This is a perverse incentive. Most importantly, our state needs to honor its promises that they made to their disabled service members. These members made life decisions based on the current system, based on the promises. Decisions like setting their budgets, signing mortgages, paying for their kids' education, And now we want to sweep the rug out from under them. No. We need to keep our promises to our disabled police officers and firefighters. And I ask for a yes vote. Thank you.
Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Kroon. Just to the point of these members of the duty disability community, we appreciate the service. The issue before us is not how much we respect those that put their life on the line for us. At the request of several of the senators in this room, I've talked personally to the members in this group of 82, and I've appreciated those, including yesterday for half an hour. I know exactly what they're feeling, and I know exactly what these changes mean. They're being asked to contribute more to the pension fund. That contribution helps the active and retiree members, and I just wanted to point out, members, that sword cuts both ways. The members of duty disability do not respect active and retired members any less. And I want to add, Mr. President, that this chamber has my promise to continue working on the offset issue after this session ends and into the summer to try to find solutions. And to the good senator's point about the targets, I agree with you. The issue is if we had more money, we could do more for the entire group of public safety, the actives, the retirees, and the duty disabled. But with what we have here, and with $40 million a year these PTSD claims are costing, we have to figure out what is the fairest way to address it. And I believe this bill is that. Thank you, Mr. President. And I request a roll call. I'm sorry, if a roll call was not requested, I'd like to request one, please.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Senator Weissenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry. Okay. My computer started talking to me. Thank you, Mr. President. I have had grown men call me and say they were in the police force for many years, and this amendment is, out of anything, this amendment is the most I've heard about. These people are duty disabled, they have post-traumatic stress disorder, and if this goes away, they don't know what they're going to do. Some people feel like they're okay, but they're worried about suicide. Now, one thing that I've heard from the Democrats is if it saves one life, we should do it. And this bill will do that. I've had grown men call me on my phone. I've had them in my office in tears because they don't know if they can make it if this doesn't happen. Or maybe not them, but maybe their friend that they know can't handle the PTSD that they have. You know, listening to Senator Kroon's speech, I hope a lot of people would hear what he said and what I'm saying and what other people are saying. These people sacrificed their lives, and they were promised that we would take care of them when they retired, and we need to do that. So Senator Duckworth's amendment will do that, and we need to do this for these people who sacrificed their lives for us. Support this amendment and vote green, because it'll save a life. Thank you.
Any more? Senator Jasinski. Litsky. I was going to go to, I know the names there. I was going to Jasinski.
Mr. Chair, I'll go back to Senator Liskey. He was first, and I'll go after him. Thank you.
Senator Liskey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise in support of the A11 amendment. Senator Duckworth, Senator Kroon, Senator Weissenberg all mentioned great points. First and foremost, I urge a green vote. And the reason being is the Democrats have constantly told us about how the labor force needs to be supported. When they come to you and they ask you for something, we're supposed to help them. In Labor Committee, we heard over and over again on all different types of jobs on how dangerous they were, how bad they are, and we are, as a state, trying to make those jobs better. So when these wonderful officers who are retiring not by choice but due to disability come forward and they tell you why, and we tell them, well, you know what, we can't afford it. It's too bad. We just don't have enough money for this. That's not okay. And so when I had my first email from this, I called the member, the retired police officer. He lives in my community. And I called him and asked him, what's going on? I didn't understand why this bill was even a thing. I was in shock. And this grown man, as Senator Weissenberg talked about, started crying.
because no one had reached out to him. He had sent emails to all of us here on this floor, all of the representatives in the other body, and not a single person had reached out to him. I was the first person to call. And he started crying. And he actually went and got his wife and had her talk to me because he couldn't talk for the first 10 minutes of our phone conversation. It's concerning that we as a body are now deciding that it's not okay to support these individuals, and we're going to take away the funding that is supporting their situation, their family. Senator Duckworth has read multiple letters about where these people are and what could happen to them if this bill passes as is. So with that, I urge a green vote on Senator Duckworth's amendment. Thank you.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in support of Senator Duckworth's A11 amendment. I think Senator Kroon did a great job. Not only we talk about this in caucus, but he did that on the floor. There is a good thing in this bill, and I have two members, two people in my districts, one that will benefit from this and one that will not. I know you know, most everyone knows Eric Mattson and Megan. This will help them. It'll go from 60% to 99.9% or whatever it is, 99%. So that is beneficial. But I also have another gentleman in my district that will hurt from this. And it's our priorities. We should be giving priority to this in our targets. These are our public safety. These are our law enforcement that protect us every single day. Every single day they go to work, they don't know what could happen. We heard that with Eric Mattson when that happened, when he went on a routine call, got shot in the head, and his life will never be the same. And every single one of these people have the possibility of that happening to them. So when someone gets diagnosed with PTSD and they leave the workforce and they get the 60% benefit, and maybe they're a patrol officer and they love doing their work, but if they would have stayed in their profession, they would go up to a sergeant and a captain and a chief, and who knows where they would go. So they would continue to earn income. They would rise. And because of the PTSD, and they're based on that salary of the 60%, they can't. So they can go out and get off the couch and get out into the workforce and improve what they can do for their family. And I will tell you, members, a lot of these people want to provide for their families. And if they can't, that even causes more stress on them. Already suffering from PTSD from a job-related issue, and now you're going to put further stress on them that they can't provide for their family. That's the frustrating part. That's why you're seeing suicides. Things like that have everyday impact on these people. And they're protecting us here in Minnesota. We need to prioritize this. This is not a huge cost to help these officers that have been promised this, that have negotiated this as a part of their exit process, that plan on this income coming in. A big thing that I believe in mental health, if you go to work every day and you work hard and you improve yourself, your mental health gets much better. If you sit at home and don't work and don't go out there and try and do that, you have more and more mental health issues. That's what I hear from my mental health people in my district, that if you're home not being able to provide for your family, your mental health issues are worse. If you can go out and provide for your family, improve yourself, and do that, your mental health gets better. That's what this amendment would do. This A11 amendment would help our law enforcement officers, our first responders, our firefighters. We should all vote in favor of the A11 amendment tonight. And members, we need to do that. We need to do this for the people that protect us. Members, please think about this. Think about the letters you've heard. Think about your neighbors. Think about those people you're affecting and what it could do to them. If we can save one life, we should do this. So please, vote green on this. This makes a difference to people, and it will help them. Thank you.
The last voice we hear is that of the A11 author, Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thanks to those who spoke in favor of the amendment. I also appreciate Senator Frentz allowing us to have this discussion and hearing the input that I and others have had throughout the process of this bill. You know, I guess, understand the viewpoint of those who say you should vote against this amendment if we couldn't do both. This is not a yes or a no, we can only do one or the other. We have the ability to do both. We can pass this bill, which will fix many of the issues that have been identified with this pension program, and we can honor the promise we made to those previous folks that served our community and to their loved ones. You know, I'm not here to argue technicalities about the bill. This is a simple right or wrong vote. We've got the money to plug the hole if that's really what the issue is. This isn't a math problem. We can fix this with a rounding error when it comes to a $19 billion surplus. This is a question about our humanity and whether or not we're going to honor the service and sacrifice of the men and women who have served our community and state over the years. It may seem like a nominal amount of money to us, but to them it's invaluable. You cannot put a price on what they have had to go through, what their families have had to endure, and you also can't put a price on the fear and anxiety many of these people are going through today, watching us right now, wondering whether or not this amendment is going to succeed, and if their bank accounts are going to empty. Just imagine for a moment, members, that you are a retired due to duty disability paramedic or EMT or firefighter or police officer. Imagine that on your worst day on the job, when you sustained a significant life-altering injury or potentially had something traumatic happen as it relates to your mental state that impacts you every day of your life, having a meeting with your spouse, your loved ones, planning your financial budget for the rest of your life based on a benefit that was promised to you by the state of Minnesota. In 5 or 10 years down the road, thinking you have your life plans figured out as it pertains to paying for your house, paying for your car, paying for your kids' futures, and then hearing through the grapevine that your financial situation in life is about to potentially be upended. What would your reaction be? How would you respond? What would you expect the leaders in the legislature to do, especially if they had the power to prevent it from happening? That's where we stand right now, right here in this moment, members. The question is a right or wrong question. Are we going to do something to help these people and make a difference? Or are we going to say that due to some math, due to some technicalities, due to the fact that we've got some letters from a few different organizations, we're just going to tell them no? I don't think that's why we're here, Mr. President. I don't think when many of us ran for office and said that we were going to back public safety and support public safety, I don't think that included voting no on an amendment like this. And quite frankly, if you want to be true to your word and honor that commitment that you made to these folks, you'll vote in support of this amendment. Because after all, Mr. President, what's at stake here is the word of Minnesota. What is the word of our state worth if we can't even keep a promise to the men and women who put their lives on the line to protect our communities, us, and our loved ones? And I'll end by giving this to us to consider as well, Mr. President. In the last 4 weeks alone, we've had 4 law enforcement personnel killed in the line of duty in the state of Minnesota and western Wisconsin. What in the world kind of message are we sending to our public safety officers their loved ones, and families when we are not willing to keep our word to them. Please, members, let's have this be bipartisan. If this has to go to conference committee for further discussion, let's do it. We owe it to them to at least do that. Thank you.
The Secretary take the roll on the A11 amendment. Members, please vote. Senator Murphy, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Bolden votes no.
Senator Bolden votes no.
Senator Gustafson votes no.
Senator Gustafson votes no.
Senator Latz votes no.
Senator Latz votes no.
Senator McQuaid votes no.
Senator McQuaid votes no.
Senator McEwen votes no.
Senator McEwen votes no.
Senator Port votes no.
Senator Port votes no.
Senator Putnam votes no.
Senator Putnam votes no.
Senator Morrison votes no.
Senator Morrison votes no.
Senator Dietzick votes no.
Senator Dietzick votes no.
Senator Hauschild votes no.
Senator Hauschild votes no.
Senator Dibble votes no.
Senator Dibble votes no.
Senator Herr votes no.
Senator Herr votes no. He voted in person. Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Draheim votes aye.
Senator Draheim votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
And thank you, Mr. President. Senator Pratt votes aye.
Senator Pratt votes aye. Members, please vote. Members, there's being all senators having voted who desires to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There have been 29 or 30 ayes and 32 noes. The amendment is not adopted. Any additional amendments? Senator Howell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, members, I think duty disability and the offset is a big deal. And what I would ask folks to do is, if you couldn't grandfather these folks in, let's at least keep the offset the same as what it currently is. What people may not understand is, once these members on duty disability hit 125%, they have to pay $1 for every $3 they earn. That's what current is. So, members, I will tell you that sitting on the Pension Commission, this offset has been changed numerous times as they've scrambled to try and make it right. I don't think they've made it right. And what really upsets me is, when I started working on this over 2 years ago, I told PRA this was going to be a problem. I said, the duty disability claims are coming. We have to address it. What did they tell me? I got the Mello report. The stock market's fine, the pension fund is fine, we don't have a problem. Well, last fall, things changed. Holy smokes, we got to do something. The pension plan's in trouble. We got duty disability claims coming out our ears. Now it's a crisis. So now we're scrambling to come up with a fix. Well, members, I think we hit the pause button. Ignore the puree button on the blender and let's hit stop. Members, I think there's time to work on this. And with that, members, I'll offer the A9 amendment.
Senator Howe offers the A9 amendment, and the secretary will report the A9 amendment.
Senator Howe moves to amend House File Number 1234, the second unofficial engrossment, as follows. Page 35, lines 25 to 28. Delete the new language. This is the A9 amendment.
Senator Howell to your A9 amendment.
And thank you, Mr. President. Members, the A9 amendment deletes the offset language, and it reverts it back to the current language of 125%. You pay $1 for every $3 earned over the 125%. That's what current is. That's what we agreed to. Then what it does is it establishes a disability benefit offsets working group. It requires us to put the stakeholders together. Let's put our heads together. Let's figure out what it should be and what we need to do. And let's put that report back so we can fix this next legislative session instead of running around with our chickens with our head cut off and trying to come something and pull something out of the air and make it work. It protects the people that are currently drawing. It protects them, and it gives us time to hit the pause button and figure it out. Members, let's not cause crisis for our folks out on duty disability. Let's not put them under more stress than their families already are currently under. We cannot afford, they cannot afford to have the rug pulled out from under them. And that's what we're currently going to do. The other thing it allows us to do is to properly put this out there for folks. Because there's a lot of misinformation out there about the offsets. Not everybody's been briefed what the offsets are really going to do with them, for them. A lot of stuff has just been put to the mat, and they're all of a sudden trying to do the math, not fully understanding there's two offsets. Folks, we need to push the pause button. Let the current offsets work. Let us put together the working group. Let's put our heads together, find the answer that where it needs to be, and fix this next session after we've done the work that we should have been doing the last 2 years. It's just disappointing that all of a sudden, when the stock market starts to fail and a whole host of disability claims come in, that now the sky is falling and we got to rush to fix it. Nothing good happens fast, and these offsets happened fast. Good legislation takes time, especially when you're dealing with people's financial health. It's really disappointing that we had the money. We had 17.6, 17.5, arguably $19 billion, but we're going to kick our disability folks to the curb and say, cough it up, without doing our homework and not doing a just job. Folks, let's think about this. Put yourself in their situation. Think about that. Have a little humility. Members, I'll stand for questions. I ask you to support the A9 amendment to push the pause button, do the homework, and do this right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Kupik.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would request a roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you again, Senator Howe, for your passion and for coming at this from a perspective of caring about the public safety community. Members, you should vote no on the A9 amendment. First of all, there's been a work group. It's met constantly with all the stakeholders over and over and over again. I'm not quite sure what this working group here would be doing that they're not already doing. But second, members, public safety Minnesotans don't hit pause when there's a tough situation. Public safety members go into the burning building. They don't hit pause when there's something that needs to be fixed. This pension fund is losing $40 million a year, and the leaders of these organizations made tough decisions, just like public safety members do too. One of the things I've heard from the rank and file firefighters and cops is this has to be fixed. And hitting pause is not the kind of fixing that this situation calls for. Members, vote no on the A9 amendment.
Any additional discussion before we go to the author of the A9 amendment? Seeing none, Senator Howe, before we vote.
Well, members, I've been the guy that runs into burning buildings. I've done all that, right? I've been the guy that every time he closed his eyes, he's seen a guy with his throat cut and his wrist slashed. I've been the guy that walked in and pushed the door open to the apartment building to find the burned body there, and I'll guarantee you the burned body smell never leaves your mind. So, you know, the thing is yeah, you don't push pause on an emergency situation. I've been the guy that had mortar rounds raining down on his head and had to make the decision on where to go. Those aren't the decisions we're making here. We're not making life and death decisions here. We have the opportunity to push pause and do our homework. We're not emergency services, folks. We have the time to do it right. We have the time to plan. No one's going to die because we push pause. You're putting dollars over people. That's what you're doing if you don't put this amendment on and do this right. You're going to put dollars over people. Yeah, I tell you what, all the rank and file active members are really nice now. They're going to cut bait on the duty disability folks and let them sink so they can save their pension. Nice job, folks. I'm telling you what, Mr. President, this A9 amendment is an important piece to do the duty disability piece right. We're not dealing with gunshots, burning buildings, EMS folks that need to have a breathing tube put in. We're not doing CPR here, folks. We're trying to save the people that we are gonna put in this terrible situation because we're in a rush to save $1 on a pension plan. Because that's what you're doing if you don't vote for this bill, this amendment. If you don't put this on, you're putting pension dollars over people. Let's put people first. Let's care about the folks that are struggling. Let's vote green on the A9 amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
The Secretary will take the roll on the A9 amendment. Members, please vote. Senator Murphy, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Bolden votes. She's going to vote no.
Senator Bolden votes no.
Senator Gustafson's going to vote no.
I'm sorry, can you slow down, please?
Senator Gustafson votes no.
Senator Gustafson votes no.
Senator Latz votes no.
Senator Latz votes no.
Senator McQuaid votes no.
Senator McQuaid votes no.
Senator McEwen votes no.
Senator McEwen votes no.
Senator Port votes no.
Senator Port votes no.
Senator Putnam votes no.
Senator Putnam votes no.
Senator Morrison votes no.
Senator Morrison votes no.
Senator Dietzick votes no.
Senator Zizik votes no.
Senator Hochschild votes no.
Senator Hochschild votes no.
Senator Dibble votes no.
Senator Dibble votes no.
And Senator Marty votes no.
And Senator Marty votes no. Senator Jasinski, for those voting under Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Draheim votes aye.
Senator Draheim votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
Senator Miller votes aye.
And thank you, Mr. President. Senator Pratt votes aye.
Senator Pratt votes aye. All senators having voted who desires to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 31 ayes and 33 noes, the A9 amendment is not adopted. Any additional amendments? Seeing none, the secretary will give the bill its third reading.
House File 1234, a bill for an act relating to labor, modifying peace officer and firefighter duty disability provisions, etc.
Third reading. Any discussion before we go to the author of the bill? Any additional discussion? Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the conversation debate we had here today. I think it was the folks that we're talking about are certainly worthy of our thoughts and consideration. I just want to say that there are aspects of this bill which are good. I want to say to Wendy and Dan Wolf, congratulations. I know that this is something you've been working on for a long time, and I'm happy to see it likely take one step closer to becoming law. Thanks to Representative John Kosnick and former Representative Mary Liz Holberg, who have worked tremendously hard on a very important provision in this bill. It's going to help a lot of folks. Last but not least, Mr. President, as was mentioned earlier, I have a significant issue with the bill, and so I likely won't be able to support it in its final passage. But I can tell you this, much like our public safety officials, I refuse to give up. I've served with these folks before, shoulder to shoulder, as a member of the National Guard when we got called up for riots a couple of different times. I serve with them on a regular basis as a volunteer firefighter when we get called to the scenes of accidents and what have you. And I know that we still have time potentially, whether it's this session or the next, to continue to consider how we're going to take care of these folks and their families. And I can only hope that if we see that aspect of this bill play out negatively and have very significant consequences for people, that we don't fail to take action, that we take a stand for them, and we make the changes that's needed regarding this legislation. So, Mr. President, I appreciate the conversation today, and let's continue to keep these people top of mind and make sure that we are taking care of them and fulfilling the promises that we in the state of Minnesota have made to them. Thank you.
Any additional discussion before we go to the author of the bill? Senator Howe, and then we're going to Senator Frentz, since I don't see anyone else. Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I'm very passionate about this. I worked on this bill for a long time before I was kicked to the curb on it. Wasn't invited into any of the meetings afterwards. So I didn't get an opportunity to put a lot of the input that I wanted to put into this bill to make it a better bill until tonight. Members, there are a lot of good things in this bill, but the parameters that would make this bill right and actually provide what I believe needs to happen isn't in the bill. And that's disappointing. I think we could do this right. And yeah, my fingerprints are in there right now, but they've been wiped over pretty hard. And so I'm disappointed we're not going to do the right thing, and we're doing the convenient thing, and we're putting dollars over people with this bill. There's a lot of right things in here, but there's a lot of wrong things that are going to hurt people. And I believe that we're not going to see hardly any change in what the outcome of people are. The treatment parameters aren't defined enough. I think you're going to continue to see people go out the door on disability, and of course, there's the multiple types of disability. I don't think this is going to stem the tide. We had an opportunity to put the parameters in to stem the tide. I think we're doing a disservice to some of the folks that are currently disabled. So, members, I truly wanted to support this bill. I offered 4 amendments. If 2 of them I think were very important would have went on this bill, I would be able to vote for this bill. But that didn't happen. So, members, I'm not going to be able to support this bill today. I hope I can be invited to work on this bill in the future because it needs to be worked on and we need to make it right. Currently, members, I don't believe this is the right legislation that needs to go forward. Some people are saying we gotta pass this, we gotta fix this. Well, guess what? I think we're throwing people under the bus to do this wrong. It's expedient, but I don't think it's right. So, members, I'm disappointed, but I will tell you that I am hopeful that I'm wrong. I'm hopeful that this will do what everybody out there thinks it's going to do, and I hope I'm wrong when I say it won't do it. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. But I don't think I'm wrong on this. I hope I am. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, members. I'd already announced who was going in what order. Senator Frentz.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, members. I'm going to remember this night for a number of reasons, but I want to start by saying thank you to everyone who commented on the bill. You know, one of the hard things about working here is when you disappoint your friends. And I see members across the aisle that I like and respect, and I see they're disappointed. And regardless of my opinions about what we're going to see when this bill passes, Mr. President, I don't like to see that. So, Senator Howe, I'm hopeful too. And you have this as an invitation to join in the work immediately and keep working at it until we can get it. One of the things that's been frustrating for all of us, and many of us have served in the majority, is the targets. They say this is how much money you get. And there are things you wish you could do, and it's a matter of priorities, and you don't always get it. With this target, $100 million, I think this is a very good bill doing some good things. Senator Duckworth, you are as classy as you are young and good looking, and I appreciate your passion, and I think that's something we should build on. And I think those members' letters that you read, those really count. That's who we're talking about here. For the people out there that are watching, I hope we all respect equally retirees, active members, members of the duty disability community. For those members, 80 or so, who are in the second offset and are worried about it, you have my pledge that we will keep talking about it. And if there's more money available and if we can pry it loose, maybe we can do something. Mr. President, members, I'm asking you to vote yes on this bill for this simple reason. On the whole, it is good for our public safety community. It provides treatment for those that are suffering from PTSD. It replenishes the funds in parapolice and fire in a way that protects this generation of public safety and the next one that we want to recruit. It reimburses the employers who, while those members are on treatment, will pay full salary and full benefits. And like the money that left this chamber, Mr. President, in the tax bill, we will say we're there for public safety when it comes to spending our dollars. With that, Mr. President, members, I ask for a yes vote. Thank you.
The Secretary will take the roll on final passage of House File 1234. Members, please vote. Senator Murphy, are you ready for those voting under Rule 40.7? When you're ready, let me know.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Gustafson votes aye.
Senator Gustafson votes aye.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Senator Putnam votes aye.
Senator Putnam votes aye.
Senator Morrison votes aye.
Senator Morrison votes aye.
Senator Dietzick votes aye.
Senator Dietzick votes aye.
Senator Hauschild votes aye.
Senator Hauschild votes aye.
Senator Dibble votes aye.
Senator Dibble votes aye.
Senator Marty votes aye.
Senator Marty votes aye. Senator Murphy, do you have any additional or you do not? All senators having voted, who desires a vote?
Sorry, I'm just still waiting.
Senator Jasinski.
Almost there. Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Draheim votes no.
Senator Draheim votes no.
Senator Miller votes no.
Senator Miller votes no.
Senator Pratt votes aye.
Senator Pratt votes aye. All members having voted, who desires a vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 40 ayes and 22 noes, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Members, we are remaining under motions and resolutions. We will revert to the third order of business, messages from the House. The secretary will read the message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce the passage by the House of the following House file herewith transmitted. House File Number 1900, signed Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
Members, remember, no action is required. The next order of business is the fourth order of business, first reading of House bills. The secretary will give the bill its first reading.
House File Number 1900, a bill for an act relating to natural resources, proposing an amendment to the Minnesota Constitution, Article 11, Section 14, providing for the renewal of the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund.
The bill is referred to the Committee on Finance. Members, we will now proceed to the 13th order of business, announcements of Senate interests. Without objection, the following senators will be excused from today's session. Pratt, 11 a.m. to 5:45 p.m. Limmer, 1:20 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Westrom from 5:25 to 5:50 p.m. Nelson from 8:25 to 9 p.m. Any announcements of Senate interests? Any additional announcements of Senate interests? Senator Rest.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to remind the members of the Tax Committee that our hearing begins at 8:30 in the morning in G3. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any additional announcements of Senate interests? Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate do now adjourn until Friday, May 12th at 11 a.m.
On that motion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails and the Senate is now adjourned.